Chapter 21-21, Facing Shang Mei. Elder Ian God paused. He glanced towards Shang Mei, a restless premonition in his heart. Shang Mei faintly said, "Your ancient Ian sect still has an elder that wishes to challenge." "Then, we might as well begin today." As Shang Mei spoke, her gaze fell on Lin Ming. For a time, Lin Ming became the focus of attention for every abyssal present. All of them turned towards him. Many of these abyssals recognized Lin Ming and knew that this was the fellow who had a mere Empyrean cultivation and wished to jump ranks to challenge Deep King Rhodes' holy Demonis. Then, the abyssals present had entertained expressions as they looked at the complexions of the abyssals from the ancient Ian sect. For such shame to fall upon others, this naturally caused these abyssals to be happy. Deep King Rhodes' holy Demonis truly doesn't care for the feelings of others. This battle is clearly bullying, and yet she isn't willing to let it go. True, but this punishment is to serve as a warning for others. In truth, with just the strength that the holy Demonis displayed today, there should be no one willing to mention marriage to her in the future. An elder from a small influence said with a gloating tone. At this time, the complexions of the several elders from the ancient Ian sect were incredibly ugly. They all wished they could dig a hole into the ground and hide away. By this point, this battle was no longer humorous to them. Even Ian God already started to regret designing this trap for Lin Ming. Now, not only would Lin Ming be ruined, but their ancient Ian sect would be disgraced and mocked by others. Elder Ian God managed to force out a smile. With his right hand he touched his chest, his long black nails joining together in a common bow of etiquette amongst the abyssals. He said, "Your Highness Holy Demonis indeed loves to joke. Victory and defeat is already clear to all. At the limits of an Empyrean, Your Highness Holy Demonis is already able to defeat a lower true divinity abyssal. This sort of accomplishment is more than enough to be called the #1 elite of the entire Dark Abyss. So what reason is there to do something so unbefitting your status as fighting a young elder from my ancient Ian sect? Moreover, our elder also lacks in cultivation and was only dragged here to make up for numbers. If there was any way that we offended Your Highness Holy Demonis before this, then I personally apologize," Ian God politely said to Shang Mei. From between his words, he was clearly implying that if Shang Mei were to truly fight Lin Ming, then she would simply be disregarding her status to bully someone far weaker. Ian God thought that with Shang Mei's arrogance and pride she would surely make a show and not blame anyone in this matter. Moreover, he had even apologized and admitted defeat. However, he never thought that Shang Mei would seem as if she never heard his words at all. She continued to look at Lin Ming, and what left Ian God and the other elders of the ancient Ian sect the most speechless was that Lin Ming was still sitting in meditation where he was, as if everything occurring around him was irrelevant. This caused the ancient Ian sect elders to nearly stumble to the ground. Just what was he still doing here? Ian God sent an impatient sound transmission to Lin Ming. "Brat! Have you gone mad? Have you seen the strength of these Deep King Rhodes abyssals? Just give up any thoughts of entering the demon god's tomb with the Book of Ian." He originally placed a trap for Lin Ming because he wanted Lin Ming to suffer a little bit of hardship. And now, all the abyssals present had witnessed Shang Mei's strength on their own. As long as Lin Ming wasn't stupid, then he would know that taking the Book of Ian to enter the demon god's tomb was no different than walking into his own death. If Lin Ming were to regret his choice and draw back, although it might be a bit ugly to look at, it was still far better than being beaten senseless by Shang Mei. At least the Book of Ian would be safe after this lesson. However, Lin Ming simply ignored Ian God's sound transmission. He slowly rose up, his feet planted down and his toes pushed forwards as he faced Shang Mei. Shang Mei's lips curved up, her expression seeming to say, "I knew you would accept the challenge." Are you really planning to fight?" Ian Light could see the demon power already surge through Lin Ming's body, and he stared at Lin Ming as if he were looking at a monster. This Lin Ming still wanted to fight Shang Mei in such a situation? Had he gone insane? Or was he just far too stupid? Lin Ming opened his mouth and said, Your Highness Holy Demonis? I should refer to you like this, I suppose. Are you one of the people entering the demon god's tomb on behalf of Deep King Road? Shang Mei was startled. She didn't know why this abyssal elder who wished to challenge her would ask such a question. Why do you ask? Shang Mei didn't directly respond. But Lin Ming continued to say, If I'm not wrong, then that should be true. In the abyss, strength is revered above all, and this true divinity-level competition was arranged to assign resources based on strength. If Your Highness Holy Demonis was to obtain one of the core spots of those entering the demon god's tomb, then that would be a position truly worthy or your reputation and outstanding talent. As Lin Ming spoke, all of the surrounding abyssals, including Shang Mei, were bewildered. Ian God glared at Lin Ming and sent him a sound transmission. What nonsense are you speaking? Hurry up and draw back, or are you really so stubborn about dying? Lin Ming disregarded Ian God. He continued to say, according to the rules of this true divinity competition, the division of resources is based upon the respective levels of strength of those that will enter the demon god's tomb. Then, does that mean if I possess strength similar to that of Your Highness Holy Demonis, I will also enjoy equivalent treatment? Lin Ming spoke so much before finally saying his goal. Since his battle with Shang Mei was destined to occur, then he might as well win a chance for himself and bring the Book of Ian into the demon god's tomb openly and proudly. His words, whether it was from logic or truth, all were impeccable. These were indeed the rules for which the alliance was based upon, in which strength would determine everything. It was fair and just. However, with Lin Ming's current status and the present situation, for him to say such words before he stepped onto the battlefield seemed as if he had gone mad. As a result, the many abyssals watching were all left wide-eyed. What did he just say? If he possesses strength similar to the Holy Demonis, then he can also enjoy equivalent treatment? Because Lin Ming's words were too outrageous, many abyssals weren't able to react for some time. For some reason it seemed as if this ninth elder from the ancient Ian sect hadn't yet realized that he was no opponent of Shang Mei's from the start. Not only was he still dreaming of holding this beauty in his arms, but he also wanted to enjoy similar treatment upon entering the demon god's tomb. Was his mind normal? This arrogant and ignorant fellow, just how could he stand there and still challenge the Holy Demonis? At this time, the abyssals of Deep King Road felt the entire situation worth a good laugh. I never thought that this elder from the ancient Ian sect would have such a unique personality. A Deep King Road elder said. As an ancient Ian sect elder heard this, his face turned green. Now, all of these ancient Ian sect elders wished they could jump on stage to beat up Lin Ming to prevent him humiliating them any further. Even Shang Mei was startled. She realized that there was something special about Lin Ming, but this was something that purely came from some inexplicable touch of intuition. Still, she never believed that Lin Ming had the qualifications to fight her. Now with Lin Ming saying such words, they had left her surprised. But surprise was only surprise. She still answered Lin Ming's question. If you can truly defeat me, then according to our previous agreement you can hold the grand dual cultivation ceremony with me. From this alone you will be considered half a disciple of Deep King Road, and in addition with the contract of this alliance, you will be able to enjoy the same treatment as me. But, do you think you can defeat me? As Shang Mei finished speaking, her eyes began to glow with a chilling light. Although she thought Lin Ming was special, this didn't mean she desired to dual cultivate with him. In fact, when it came to dual cultivation or marriage, no matter which abyssal had proposed it, Shang Mei would crush them without hesitation. I understand then. The words that Your Highness Holy Demonis speak should be considered a promise. Lin Ming was afraid that Shang Mei couldn't take responsibility for such words. His gaze turned towards the Deep King Road elder standing not too far from Shang Mei. At this time, the Deep King Road elder was already at a loss for words. He simply looked at Lin Ming like he was looking at a babbling fool. Just where had this crazy fellow jumped out from? Because all of the Deep King Road elders were stunned, no one replied to Lin Ming. He frowned, asking once more, "Do they or don't they?" These words caused many abyssals to roar out laughing. This was really far too hilarious. As for the elders of the ancient Ian sect, they all wanted to fall to their knees and beg Lin Ming to step down. Why was he insisting on keeping up such a charade at this time? Would it hurt him to say a few less words? Yes, the words of the holy Demonis can be considered as correct. Deep King Rhodes' elder Deep Epic nodded, beaming with delight. As long as you win, then during this venture into the demon god's tomb, the disciples there will take you as a core figure. Understood. After obtaining the approval of Deep King Rhodes' many elders in public, Lin Ming wasn't afraid that he couldn't bring the Book of Ian in anymore. In the next moment his figure flashed like gods and ghosts as he appeared on the Deep King wheel, directly facing Shang Mei. Chapter 21-22, Battle of Proud Elites. Shang Mei came fluttering down onto the ash-gray Deep King wheel like a black butterfly, landing 100 feet away from Lin Ming and gazing at him. A single parting had lasted 12,000 years. After meeting her so suddenly, even Lin Ming didn't understand how he felt towards this woman who had deeply affected his life. At this moment it would be wrong to say that there were no waves of emotion in his heart. But it was just that these waves of emotions were hidden deep within, so that on the surface all that showed was a calmness as still as a placid lake and eyes that were as sharp as swords. Opposite Lin Ming, Shang Mei was also quiet. She slowly released her aura so that it covered the entire Deep King wheel. And compared to the battlefield platform with its thick and roiling killing intent, the situation beneath the stage was actually filled with raucous noise and the sound of laughter. For the abyssals watching, this was a fight that no one could take seriously at all. In this sort of environment, the elders of the ancient Ian sect felt their livers hurt, their stomachs hurt, and their entire bodies ill. At this time, a pair of pitch-black wings unfurled from behind Shang Mei, opening like the tail of a black peacock and then wrapping around her flawless figure. Shang Mei's eyes gazed upon Lin Ming, a burst of brilliance flashing from her eyes. As Shang Mei displayed her wings, this caused the atmosphere in the audience to calm down a little. Originally everyone thought that this battle would last but a moment, and at most Shang Mei would make a single move. However, what happened left them startled. Shang Mei released her Dark Angel wings, which proved that she would at least use her Dark Angel bloodline. To deal with a mere Upper Empyrean abyssal, was this really necessary? And at this time Lin Ming also drew out his own weapon, a black bone spear. In fact, this bone spear was the Black Dragon Spear, but at this moment the Black Dragon Spear was covered in a layer of thick bone. This was demon bone that was divided from Lin Ming's demon avatar. Not only did it completely wrap around the Black Dragon Spear, but it caused the spear to be a great deal thicker, longer, and heavier, giving it an incredibly ferocious and hideous appearance at the same time, as if it were a spine pulled out from some giant. With this giant spear, combined with Lin Ming's towering abyssal figure, it seemed just right. Shang Mei didn't recognize the concealed Black Dragon Spear. But, as she saw Lin Ming's spear stance, a strange feeling stirred in her heart. At this moment, Lin Ming moved. His entire being was like a divine spear hidden in a wooden chest for countless years, covered in dust. As he left the chest, divine light bloomed, shooting through the entire audience. This was clearly only light produced by energy, but this light passed through the protective force field of the Deep King wheel and cast down a massive pressure on the abyssals present. This is... what? The noisy audience suddenly quieted down. Without enough time for the abyssals watching to think, Lin Ming had already rushed in front of Shang Mei. The spear in his hand came crashing down and the thick bone-like shaft bent like a real spine as it whipped towards Shang Mei's waist. Because of this spear, a part of the Deep King wheel force field supported by 12 totem poles was forcefully twisted. Everything happened in a spark of time. Shang Mei's pupils contracted. She thought that Lin Ming's strength might not be ordinary, but she didn't expect his first move to be so formidable. This spear strike was simple and without any elegance at all, but as it barbarically twisted the Deep King wheel force field, it reminded her that this spear strike was in no way inferior to the strike of a lower true divinity level abyssal. This mysterious abyssal had a lower cultivation than she did, and yet he was able to send out such an attack? Whoosh! Black sword light flashed. Xiang Mei slashed her bone sword down upon the bone spear. But because of the massive weight of the bone spear and the incredible disparity in size between the two weapons, Xiang Mei was sent flying away. Her figure was like a black bird that was sent floundering in the air. Her feet rapidly moved as she stepped on the edge of the Deep King Will force field to release the terrifying momentum behind Lin Ming's strike. Beneath the tremendous impulsion, every step she took on the light barrier caused ripples to spread out. And at this time Lin Ming chased ahead. With his far larger figure, the scene of him rushing towards Xiang Mei was like a hawk chasing a rabbit. Bang! Lin Ming's spear ruthlessly pounded downwards. Xiang Mei avoided the strike and the spear crashed into the light barrier. The Deep King force field violently shivered beneath Lin Ming's horrifyingly great strength. Bang! 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 Lin Ming brought his spear pounding down again and again. Every strike was incredibly quick, but Xiang Mei was like a willow leaf fluttering in the wind, barely managing to avoid every dangerous strike. All of these terrifying attacks were withstood by the Deep King force field. This Deep King force field was strong, but beneath the continuous barrage of attacks, even though each attack was only at a single point, it still trembled more and more as if it would tear apart at any moment. Seeing the light barrier around the Deep King Will tremble like a soap bubble in the wind, ready to pop at any moment, the abyssals watching were all left staring with wide eyes. At this time their expressions were filled with utter shock, bewilderment, and disbelief. Their faces were twisted into things that seemed like complex array diagrams. Was this the strength of an Empyrean-level abyssal? No matter who was asked, that Empyrean abyssal, the ninth elder of the ancient Aeon sect, was considered an idiot by all. Yet he possessed such brute force. They thought it brute force because many abyssals didn't want to acknowledge Lin Ming's true strength. Thus they subconsciously explained the reason for why the Deep King force field was shaking as being because of Lin Ming's brute force. After all, they had all laughed at Lin Ming and called him an idiot, but if he wasn't the idiot, then it was obvious who the true idiot was instead. No one wanted to admit that they were an idiot. Thus, even with reality placed before them, none of them wanted to acknowledge Lin Ming's strength. But soon after they could no longer find a reason to console themselves. Crash! Howling winds rose up from all over. Xiang Mei's wings flapped and her speed rapidly increased. Her figure turned into a blurry shadow, so fast that most abyssals present weren't able to follow her movements. Xiang Mei was fast and her comprehension of the laws was high, this was recognized by all. Her only deficiency lay in her physical strength. However, none of the abyssals present thought that even in this situation, the ancient Aeon sect's ninth elder would be able to keep up with Xiang Mei in speed. His figure also vanished into countless afterimages. Like rising black mist, everyone was covered in layers of darkness. In terms of speed, the two of them were matched. This basically surpassed the standards of the overwhelming majority of lower true divinities. Not only did Lin Ming possess horrifying physical strength, but also terrifying speed. From these two aspects alone, that was more than enough to contend with a lower true divinity abyssal. In the layers of light, brilliance dazzled outwards. Lin Ming and Xiang Mei were like two meteors arching through the heavens, chasing after each other. This scene was gorgeous to the extreme. All of the abyssals watching were left speechless. This ancient Aeon sect's ninth elder was no different from a monster, someone even more abnormal than Xiang Mei. Xiang Mei was at the limits of an Empyrean, but this monster was only around an upper Empyrean. The playful and taunting expressions that covered the faces of the elders of Deep King Road had stiffened a long time ago. As for the other small influences, the abyssals that had been expecting a good play were all left staring blank-eyed, as if they had seen ghosts. And the ones most shocked were the elders of the ancient Aeon sect. Just now they had all been restless and uncomfortable no matter how they stood or sat, and the gaze of the countless abyssals around them felt like countless ants crawling over their bodies, causing them to wish to crawl into the ground. But in the blink of an eye all of them were frozen like statues, their eyes staring straight onto the afterimages atop the Deep King wheel. Was that monster really from their ancient Aeon sect? Was that really their ancient Aeon sect's ninth elder? All of the ancient Aeon sect abyssals were filled with disbelief. Before coming to Deep King Road, they had all been in contact with Lin Ming for a long time. But never once had they imagined that Lin Ming would be so abnormal, that he would be an upper Empyrean capable of fighting a true divinity. This sort of talent perhaps couldn't even be found in ancient times 10 billion years ago, but an elder they had randomly picked up from nowhere had actually possessed such terrifying talent? The curtain of light trembled more and more, each attack causing it to resonate. Not only were there Lin Ming's attacks, but also Xiang Mei's. Bang! A loud explosion rang out. Lin Ming and Xiang Mei collided in the void. The entire curtain of light blew apart before slowly drawing back. Although the curtain of light didn't shatter, the horrifying spear light and sword light that rushed out caused all abyssals below the true divinity realm to be covered in a cold sweat. That sort of feeling was like someone pointing a weapon between their eyebrows. It was too terrifying. Chapter 21-23, Demon Azura. On the Deep King wheel, Lin Ming and Xiang Mei stood 200 feet apart from each other. The two of them motionlessly stared at each other. Only the demon power that burned like blazing flames and icy fires upon their weapons reminded everyone just how intense the battle just now had been. You, just what are you? Xiang Mei's frosty voice reverberated through the audience. She was well aware that it was impossible for a higher abyssal like Lin Ming to appear out of nowhere. However, no matter whether it was this person's abyssal bloodline, aura, techniques, or whatever else, she still couldn't find any clues about him. This abyssal gave off a strange feeling. He only calmly stood there, but he was like a deep pool lying still in a mountain, an eternal proud son of heaven looking down upon the world with disdain, carrying with him an inexplicable and unknown invincible spirit. Lin Ming remained silent. He only raised the black dragon spear, the barrel shaft crackling with bone. At this moment the black dragon spear in his hands seemed to become a snake made of black bone, containing an incomparably powerful strength as well as a cunning attack trajectory. Lin Ming felt more and more desire for this battle. This enigmatic Xiang Mei was no different from a riddle, and she had entangled herself in his life in countless ways. And she, for the last 10 billion years, was one of the proudest elites, whether it was in the dark abyss or the 33 heavens. She was someone that could step on that supreme road to become a horrifying character like the immortal sovereign. This was a match that was fated to be, and it would begin today. Lin Ming took a deep breath, his dark amber-brown pupils slowly contracting. The power of demons formed a black snake around him that wildly weaved about. At this time Lin Ming's true self was sitting in his demon avatar's inner world. Above his truer self, 9 brilliant stars manifested. This was the 9 stars of the Dao Palace. Facing Xiang Mei, Lin Ming couldn't switch out to his true body to fight, nor could he openly use the laws that were well known by Xiang Mei. Otherwise, just relying on the intuitive sense of familiarity that Xiang Mei felt towards Lin Ming, as well the laws that were unique to Lin Ming, how could she not guess his identity? As the 9 stars of the Dao Palace appeared, the strength of Lin Ming's true self rapidly rose. All of this strength was constantly fused into his demon avatar to bolster it. Whoosh! Lin Ming's figure vanished in the void. With overwhelming potential he rushed towards Xiang Mei. His demon body fused with his bone spear, forming a heaven-shattering and earth-sundering divine light. After Lin Ming's demon avatar was fused with the 9 stars of the Dao Palace, the intensity of his mortal body could compare with a true divinity spirit treasure. He thrust out his spear towards Xiang Mei, a billowing momentum following it that seemed as if it could pierce through the endless universe. The abyssal laws interwove with the strength of the 9 stars of the Dao Palace, spinning together like a river of stars and forming giant black stars that swirled atop the spear shaft. This spear possessed an overwhelming potential and suffocating oppressive force. The surrounding abyssal disciples couldn't help but tremble. They felt that this spear light contained a strength that could devour them whole, and they started to retreat in panic. Even the complexions of many true divinity abyssal elders changed. Facing such a powerful strike, Xiang Mei's eyes burst out with brilliance once more. The dark wings on her back glowed with an icy metallic luster as demon runes bloomed on each one, light stars that floated atop them. Go! Dark wings soared upwards, rapidly folding in to directly welcome Lin Ming's earth-striking blow. Arrogant and filled with incomparable confidence, facing Lin Ming's powerful attack, Xiang Mei only relied on her invincible dark angel wings to meet him. Bang! Dark wings collided with the blinding divine brilliance of Lin Ming's spear light. Like two stars crashing together, billions of abyssal runes were annihilated as threads of abyssal laws shattered. This massive impact force caused the deep King Force field to violently rock yet again, as if it would tear apart. As the totem poles that supported the force field had to withstand the pressure, 10,000 demonic spirits seemed to suddenly howl. Demon energy soared to the heavens as shadows rose up, as if a peerless ancient abyssal were reaching through the endless river of time to protect the force field. War drums sounded like thunderbolts, humming in the air. An even more formidable demonic force field strength raged out to stabilize the deep King Force field. However, Lin Ming's attack hadn't yet ended. With a loud shout, Lin Ming activated the power of the Azura blood in his demon avatar's inner world. Thick scales covered his body, and behind his true self, the phantom of an Azura war god emerged. Within this war god phantom's hands, three wheels slowly revolved like grinding pans. This was power of the Azura Sutra. Pang! 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 Three wheels shattered, turning into countless runes that fused into Lin Ming's demon avatar's body. All of this occurred within the demon avatar's body, so the many abyssals watching didn't know. At this moment, all these abyssals saw were the muscles of Lin Ming's demon avatar crazily wriggle about. His joints released explosive crackling sounds and his towering body began to rise once more. The bones and scales on Lin Ming's body became harder and increasingly fierce. A pair of curved horns jutted out from his head. Lin Ming's demon avatar had turned into a ferocious Azura demon. The changes that appeared on his true self were minor, but after manifesting on his demon avatar's body, they became exaggeratedly terrifying. Underneath the pressure of so much strength, many abyssals felt their eyes pop wide open. Higher abyssal body metamorphosis. The abyssal demons were similar to the saints in that certain clans amongst them could undergo body metamorphosis. After metamorphosizing, they would experience a rapid rise in all aspects of strength. The truth was that body metamorphosis wasn't strange, in particular higher abyssals with outstanding levels of talent. This shouldn't have been enough to stir up any interest, but the crux of the issue here was that Lin Ming had already shown far too abnormal a performance just now. An upper Empyrean was able to fight a true divinity-level opponent to equally match with Xiang Mei. And yet, Lin Ming even used body metamorphosis atop all of that. Heavens, this fellow is simply a monster. An abyssal elder from a small influence said, his voice shaking. The current Lin Ming could no longer be described as being able to defeat a lower true divinity. He might have the strength to fight against a peak lower true divinity. Could he really be able to defeat the holy Demonis? The ancient Aeon Sex elder Aeon God whispered, his wizened face frozen in place. If one defeated Deep King Rhodes' holy Demonis, then they would be able to obtain this number one elite of the Dark Abyss, someone that might even control the Abyss in the future. Lin Ming, Xiang Mei. Both were proud children of heaven, and if they were to dual cultivate, then their cultivation speed would rise to a new level. That time would arrive before long, perhaps even as soon as 100,000 years. At that time, just what heights would they be at? Moreover, if they could pass the abyssal ritual of the demon god's tomb, just what would happen then? Elder Aeon God found this hard to imagine. In fact, not only did the abyssals watching the battle atop the platform react with shock, but even Xiang Mei herself paled. Again! Lin Ming bellowed. He pulled up the black dragon spear, grasping it in both hands and thrusting forwards again. And what this spear stabbed at was Xiang Mei's pair of dark angel wings. This scene caused Xiang Mei's abyssal fans to cry out in alarm. The wings of a dark angel were indeed powerful, but no matter how powerful they were, they still had their limits. In other words, Xiang Mei may not be able to use her wings to block this strike. And if the attack was too great, then her wings might even break. In this critical moment, Xiang Mei's eyes sparkled with a cold light. She slapped her hands against the void and countless crystalline ice flowers appeared. In that moment she had formed millions of law seals. Each law seal contained the source strength of extreme ice. A freezing atmosphere swept over the world, forming a wall of ice that was thousands of feet high. Deep Ice Domain. After undergoing 9 revolutions of reincarnation, Xiang Mei's mortal body had reached perfection and her strength was tens of thousands of times greater than before. She had comprehended the ice laws to the limit, and now she could even freeze and smash apart the great Tao itself. But as Lin Ming's all-shattering spear crashed into the wall, he barraged it with an onslaught of attacks, crushing it apart as if he were breaking down a planet. The bone spear shot out again and again without end. Compared to Xiang Mei, Lin Ming's body was like that of an eagle pouncing on a sparrow. As the ice wall was about to break, Lin Ming grabbed the black dragon spear and thrust forwards one last time. Gotcha! With a loud explosive sound, the ice wall shattered into countless pieces, causing the many abyssals watching to hold their breath. Lin Ming's spear collided against Xiang Mei's black wings. Shie! A grating sound filled the air. Beneath the impact, the bone spear bent like a bow. Xiang Mei used her left arm to prop up her wings, and with her right hand grasped her sword to resist Lin Ming's attack. At this moment, her dark angel wings were now covered in faint rivulets of blood. Chapter 21-24, Life-Reaping Sword Strike. Heart-shocking blood flowed down from Xiang Mei's black wings, dyeing them with traces of red. Lin Ming's powerful and fierce demon avatar, Xiang Mei's delicate and beautiful figure, the two of them formed a blinding visual contrast. The spear seemed as if it would pierce through Xiang Mei's wings and stab into her body. The many abyssal elders watching this battle were all left dripping with the cold sweat. The black dragon spear had bent into a crescent moon and Xiang Mei was also forced back to the edge of the light barrier. However, the scene was frozen in this moment. After Lin Ming's strike was weakened by the deep ice domain, less than half of its original strength was left remaining. Finally, it was successfully blocked by Xiang Mei's wings. Its momentum had been ended. Without the impact of energy, it was naturally impossible for the spear to pierce through Xiang Mei's dark angel wings. Lin Ming slightly frowned. In the end, because his true self couldn't appear, then regardless of whether it was the 9 stars of the Tao Palace he used or the Azura blood, if he couldn't display it outwardly and had to funnel the energy through his demon avatar, then there would inevitably be losses. At this moment, a warning signal flared in Lin Ming's mind. He rapidly stepped back in space, hurriedly retreating. Wah! Borrowing the strength of the black dragon spear unbending from its curved form, Lin Ming shot back like an arrow, his speed rapidly reaching the extreme. But during this time, Xiang Mei's bone sword appeared in front of Lin Ming without warning. The bone sword's sword light was even faster than Lin Ming's retreat. Above the sword blade, energy and laws wildly surged. Tens of thousands of rays of light wove together and formed blood-red lotus flowers that seemed to swallow all light. An ordinary and simple sword strike carried with it an unfathomable vastness, a strange power that seemed as if it could pierce through space and crush time. Lin Ming's flesh and skin seemed as if it were already pierced through by this bone sword, making his heart race. And no matter how quickly he drew backwards, the bone sword followed right after like a homing bird. If he slowed even just a bit, then the bone sword would pierce right through his head. Like a sort of judgment that presided over life and death, this came from the life and death laws that Xiang Mei cultivated. A single sword strike, it would not return without severing the soul and life. With a distance of only an inch apart, Lin Ming could feel his protective demon essence pierced through and his forehead already dripping with blood. As this minor wound appeared, Lin Ming could feel his life force slowly fade away, drawn out by the strange bone sword. With the presence of the death laws, all things in existence would wither away, all life would be annihilated. The life force in Lin Ming's body was similarly being swallowed by Xiang Mei's death laws. Her Highness the Holy Demonis has used her laws. Many abyssals from Deep King Road began to stir up. Relatively speaking, Xiang Mei's physical strength and abyssal body were weaker. Her speed lay somewhere in the center, and what she excelled in the most were the laws. And for the vast majority of abyssals, their weakest aspects tended to be the laws. In particular for a towering and powerfully built abyssal like Lin Ming. With such a potent bloodline and mighty physical body, it was likely that he had to pay for this with a smaller spiritual C, making it so that perceiving the laws would cost double the effort with half the results. Perhaps from here on out the tides of battle would turn. Many Deep King Road elders were looking forwards to what would happen. In fact, over 95% of the abyssals present hoped that Xiang Mei could win. Xiang Mei had countless legions of fans and they were already accustomed to her awesome talent. As for Lin Ming, the abyssals present only felt envy towards him. Only the ancient Ian sect fatally hoped that Lin Ming would be able to win. If so, then they could draw closer their relationship with Deep King Road and obtain even more advantages from the demon god's tomb. One running, one chasing. The Deep King wheel wasn't large, and because of the confinement of the force field, the space within was small and narrow. However, to Lin Ming and Xiang Mei this wasn't a problem at all, because during the rapid pursuit both of them constantly used the space laws, and thus for them space had already lost all meaning. But no matter how swift or deft Lin Ming was in shuttling through space, Xiang Mei's sword remained locked onto the point between his eyebrows. Holy Scripture laws? A bright light sparked in Lin Ming's eyes. Xiang Mei's sword was completely reflected in his deep brown eyes, just like an image in a clear mirror. With a thought, a bloody demonic eye drilled out from between Lin Ming's eyebrows, like a rock gushing out of lava. The gaze of this demonic eye carried with it a strange demonic charm, as if it could see through all lies and illusions. Then the gaze of this demonic eye fell upon the bone sword. This demon eye was the fused form of Lin Ming's Davikite Dao Palace and 3 life pupils. However, after joining together his true self with his avatar and using the power of demons to transform it, this eye had gained this appearance. Lin Ming already had some understandings into the Holy Scripture laws. Now, beneath the gaze of the demon eye he was able to see everything clearly. The myriad laws atop the bone sword were all perfectly balanced in his vision. Xiang Mei's attainments in the Holy Scripture laws far surpassed Lin Ming's. But that didn't mean Lin Ming couldn't catch up to her. At this moment the technique that Xiang Mei used was completely recorded by Lin Ming's Davikite Dao Palace and 3 lives pupils. It branded itself deep into his memory, through his eyes and into his mind. Lin Ming closed his eyes, and when he opened them once more, they radiated a blinding divine light that could pierce through all puzzles. By relying on his own understandings as well as the Davikite Dao Palace, he could find the most vulnerable point in Xiang Mei's attack. Whoosh! The black dragon spear pierced out once more. The pitch-black spear swelled with roiling flames. Like a roaring bone dragon, it hurtled towards that singular point. The black dragon spear was a divine weapon refined by the Azura Road Master. Although it wasn't the weapon used by the Azura Road Master's true self, it was still incomparably powerful. This spear drew in the surrounding demon force field, causing thousands of black suns to erupt on the spear point and causing black light to flood through the audience. Zhan! The black dragon spear collided with Xiang Mei's bone sword. Xiang Mei's sword that had recorded the ability to chase after life and death suddenly started to slow down. The law runes that lingered upon the blade began to burst apart, instantly shattering into thousands of pieces. Pang! Runes danced in the air, dissipating like night stars fading in the morning skies. Xiang Mei's complexion changed. How was this possible? She never thought that in this situation, Lin Ming would be able to counterattack and see through her move. She had used the highest laws, so how had he managed to break through them? Was it just a coincidence? Before Xiang Mei could think about what had occurred, Lin Ming's second spear strike came towards her. Zhun! Another collision occurred. This time, Lin Ming didn't choose Xiang Mei's weakest point, but one that was only relatively weak. This was because Shang Mei's sword potential had already been broken in half in his first spear strike. As for the remaining amount, Lin Ming could calmly deal with it. He didn't need every spear strike to hit her weakest point, because doing so would definitely arouse her suspicions. After all, the Holy Scripture laws weren't easy to see through. Now, Lin Ming didn't want to expose too much of himself, lest Shang Mei produce too many associations about who he truly was. If Lin Ming couldn't use continuous spear strikes at Shang Mei's weakest point to break through, then he would use an increasingly wild barrage of attacks instead. Spear after spear, in a moment Lin Ming had already thrust out 100 times, like flowers in a storm. Shang Mei felt her arm go numb. She suddenly froze. Pang! More and more runes burst apart in the skies. Shang Mei's hair wildly danced in the air as her eyebrows pressed tightly together. Lin Ming had taken the initiative against her, and as for her, she actually felt strained. What shocked her the most was that at this point, Lin Ming hadn't used brute force to suppress her, but had used his understandings of the laws. How could this be? Although Lin Ming's following attacks seemed wild and ferocious, the truth was that his attacks avoided the strongest sections of her own. The only difference was that it wasn't as exquisite as his first spear strike. Hum. 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 Crazy and fierce spear strikes stirred up a savage tornado in the middle of the abyssal force field. The wind pressure tore through the air, colliding with the force field and causing it to moan. The hellish pressure released by the two fighters on stage caused some of the weaker abyssal disciples watching to feel pressure. Some of them had no choice but to summon the demon power within them to resist it. Humph! Deep King Rhodes' elder Deep Epic coldly coughed. He raised up his own force field, allowing these weaker abyssal disciples to catch their breath. But at this time, Elder Deep Epic's complexion was considerably ugly. Even being suppressed by the 12 totem poles, this ancient Aeon sect's ninth elder was still able to display such might in his attacks. Just where had he come from? If things were to continue like this, then it wouldn't be long before this ninth elder surpassed him in strength. If this ninth elder wished to marry Shang Mei, then perhaps that wouldn't be bad at all. The best result would be that Deep King Road would gain yet another top proud elite of heaven. In the future, this ninth elder could stand by Shang Mei and the two could dominate the abyss. But the crux of the issue was, could he be of the same mind as Shang Mei? All sorts of thoughts flashed through Elder Deep Epic's mind. And at this time atop the stage, Lin Ming had already occupied the winning side. The Black Dragon Spear continued in an unstoppable offensive, an onslaught that flowed forwards like liquid mercury. As for Shang Mei, she was forced to retreat again and again, and the life and death laws atop her sword light had already been scattered by Lin Ming. Chapter 21-25, 9 Revolution Red Lotus. Gotcha! Life and death runes shattered, causing a rain of light to fall from the skies. Shang Mei had condensed the Holy Scripture laws onto her sword. Now with her sword strike broken by Lin Ming, the Black Dragon Spear continued to push forwards, thrusting straight towards the point between Shang Mei's eyebrows. Shang Mei had already been forced into a dead end of the Deep King force field without any way to retreat. And the powerful energy that Lin Ming released also locked down the surrounding void so that the space laws couldn't be used. In this moment Lin Ming suddenly slapped the Black Dragon Spear in his hands, crazily pouring demon energy into it. A bone dragon formed from demon energy formed on the ferocious spear shaft. It wildly roared and hurtled towards Shang Mei with unstoppable momentum, wanting to swallow her whole. In this critical moment many abyssals cried out in alarm. Some even thought that Shang Mei might perish beneath this strike, a fragrant jade that would shatter to pieces. After all, the scene occurring on the stage of battle was like a massive demonic flame about to burn away an exquisite feather. Strong against weak, hideous against beautiful, this intense visual impact shocked the mind. This ninth elder of the ancient Aeon sect was too terrifying. In front of him, even the invincible Shang Mei seemed delicate. Who? Demonic flames rolled upwards. In that instant, Shang Mei closed her eyes. She no longer dodged, and nor could she. Between her eyes, the 9-petal lotus flower mark began to spin. A faint source of energy began to appear from within, as if a world was being bred within it. Time came to a standstill. Just as the fierce dragon spear was 3 inches away from the point between Xiang Mei's eyebrows, a brilliant black demonic light burst out, weaving together into a massive lotus flower pattern. Every flower petal seemed to form its own small world, each one filled with birth and destruction. Xiang Mei's grand reincarnation art was far more thorough than Lin Ming's. After this lotus flower formed, every flower petal had condensed the power of desire and hope from each one of Xiang Mei's reincarnations. The 9 revolution lotus flowers spinning, this was the same as 9 Xiang mice striking out together. Gotcha! The black dragon spear thrust into the heart of the 9 revolution red lotus. The spear shaft curved, but it wasn't able to go any further. Then, Xiang Mei moved. That strange and mysterious bone sword fused into her arms. Xiang Mei's 5 slender fingers gathered together as she thrust an arm towards Lin Ming's chest. With the bone sword entering her body, sword and man had become one. Xiang Mei's sword fingers directly shattered the roiling demonic flames that surrounding Lin Ming. That bone dragon gave a screeching howl before it burst apart. Xiang Mei's fingers were bathed in the light of the 9 revolution red lotus. Lin Ming's heart shook and he quickly withdrew the demon power he sent out through the demon avatar before storming backwards. However, Xiang Mei's sword fingers were too fast. They instantly pierced through the void and shot past Lin Ming's protective demon essence, soon about to penetrate his body. Even though Lin Ming's demon avatar had an incredibly intense mortal body, it would still suffer heavy losses if pierced through by these sword fingers. This was because Xiang Mei's sword fingers wouldn't simply pierce through him, but the terrifying strength and laws contained within them would also have to be withstood by his body. If that were to occur, victory and defeat would be settled. In that spark of time, Lin Ming crossed his arms in front of his chest, using the bone blades on his elbows to resist Xiang Mei's attack. Gotcha! The sword point struck the edge of Lin Ming's elbow bone blades. On Lin Ming's arms, the 3-foot-long bone blades shattered into pieces. The sword fingers continued without stopping, piercing through Lin Ming's scales and passing through his right arm. But relying on this brief resistance, Lin Ming also changed the trajectory of the sword fingers. The sword light finally shot into Lin Ming's left shoulder. Blood shot out. Lin Ming grimaced. The strength contained in these sword fingers wasn't simple at all, it included the life and death laws. The strength of the sword fingers broke into his body and turned into sword energy. This sword energy was able to grow continuously and it recklessly shredded apart the energy within Lin Ming's body. Even so, this sword energy didn't weaken much. This naturally originated from the laws of life. At the same time, the sword energy was incredibly tyrannical, absorbing Lin Ming's vitality with overbearing might as it exhausted his blood and withered his muscles. The life and death laws were used together. If an ordinary abyssal were to be touched by just a little bit of this strength, they would have likely lost all combat efficiency. Even Lin Ming felt severe pain rack his body. The meridians within his body became disorderly as if all of them were about to break apart. His body was sent rapidly tumbling backwards 1,000 feet beneath the force of impact. Bang! With a loud crash, Lin Ming struck the light barrier of the Deep King force field, causing it to violently tremble. Lin Ming coughed up a mouthful of blood. Grabbing the black dragon spear, his giant body plummeted onto the Deep King wheel. Gudong! The Deep King wheel wildly shook. Lin Ming lifted his head upwards. He never thought that while Xiang Mei was being pressed backwards so much she would still be capable of using such a move. However, Xiang Mei, who had seemed like an otherworldly fairy, had also paled slightly. It was obvious that it hadn't been easy for her to use the strength of 9 reincarnations just now. Did the grand reincarnation art also have such an effect? To condense the power of will and hope from 9 reincarnations and seal it between the eyebrows, and then have it erupt at the same time, the strength that could be released was several times that of usual. This was an extremely terrifying move. Lin Ming's grand reincarnation art was one that he perceived himself and not the original that was created by the master of the Holy Scripture. Thus, it had extreme differences with Shang Mei's version. Even so, Lin Ming was well aware that the grand reincarnation art was incredibly difficult. And the 8th and 9th revolution would be even more so. The reason Shang Mei could transform so much and fight a lower true divinity with her Empyrean limit cultivation, this was likely due to her being able to complete the 9th revolution of the grand reincarnation art. In terms of the Holy Scripture laws, Shang Mei could be called someone that had reached the pinnacle. But Lin Ming's Holy Scripture and Heavenly Sutra veered off in opposite directions, one focused on the inner universe and one focused on the outer universe. Compared to Shang Mei, who strode down a single path, Lin Ming was naturally behind her. Lin Ming didn't know Shang Mei's exact age, but he could estimate that she was probably tens of thousands of years old. For her to arrive at this step with her age, this meant she had a chance of coming close to the boundary of those like the Immortal Sovereign and Azura Roadmaster in the future. However, as Lin Ming is astonished, so was Shang Mei. That 9 revolution Red Lotus she used just now was one of her ultimate killing moves. Once she used it, even a lower true divinity abyssal might die. This was not being defeated or wounded, but possibly being killed. Shang Mei didn't want to reveal such a technique on the stage, but Lin Ming was simply far too formidable. With her not being able to gain an upper hand after using her previous moves, she could only use this one. She didn't think that this move would be able to grievously wound Lin Ming, she only wanted to use it to ensure victory. But the result was that after this strike, nothing seemed to have happened to Lin Ming at all. He immediately stood up. Moreover, Shang Mei's perception was connected to the sword energy she sent out. She felt that the originally endlessly growing sword energy that should have been able to swallow Lin Ming's vitality was in turn swallowed by him instead. Within Lin Ming's body there seemed to be some black vortex that could tear apart all. It slowly annihilated her strength, and even the highest laws of the Holy Scripture were slowly undone. How had he done this? As she recalled Lin Ming breaking apart her life-reaping sword, Shang Mei felt increasingly in disbelief of what had occurred. This higher abyssal had actually managed to achieve such a boundary in the perception of laws. Was this because of his talent, or was it perhaps related to that eye between his eyebrows? Shang Mei couldn't imagine just what sort of bloodline could be heaven-defying to such a degree. Not only was Shang Mei shocked, but the elders of Deep King Road were also restless. They all knew how potent Shang Mei's final 9 revolution Red Lotus was. Even Elder Deep Epic would have to be careful facing such a strike, yet Lin Ming had blocked it. This fellow not only reached the pinnacle in strength and speed, but he even defied all common reasoning in the laws. This was simply incomprehensible. And at this time, something left the abyssals watching even more speechless. From the wounds on Lin Ming's arm and shoulder, the muscles began to wriggle. The demon avatar was beginning to reveal its fearsome defensive and regenerative capabilities. Shang Mei's sword fingers had contained the power of will and hope of 9 reincarnations. If an ordinary abyssal were to touch just a little of it, they would fall over dead, yet Lin Ming was actually beginning to slowly restore his body. This was too ridiculous. Shang Mei's eyes widened and a serious pressure fell over her heart. She had a premonition that this battle would be incomparably difficult, and there was even a chance that she could lose. And if she lost, then didn't that mean she would have to dual cultivate with this monster? Thinking of this, Shang Mei's stomach tumbled as if she wanted to vomit. Even though she felt something special about Lin Ming, even though there was a strange connection she sensed, she absolutely couldn't accept sharing a bed with this monster. To her, this was as bad as being killed. Chapter 21-26, The Finale. For a time, the atmosphere on stage turned solemn. All the abyssals had fallen silent. Lin Ming and Shang Mei stood apart from each other, their gazes steady. Lin Ming's mortal body began to slowly regenerate. The abyssal's presence stared blankly on as Lin Ming's arm wound nearly stitched itself back together and they couldn't sit still anymore. What is Her Highness the Holy Demoness doing? How come she's not doing anything and is just watching that fellow's body repair itself? What use is there in talking about any sort of martial arts honor? Then again, this was a fair battle to begin with, and that ninth elder was injured by the Holy Demonis, so attacking him while he's down is completely justified. So how come the Holy Demonis hasn't attacked? A young Abyssal anxiously asked. Most of the Abyssals here were Shang Mei's supporters, and only a few of them wished that Lin Ming could win. It isn't that Her Highness the Holy Demonis doesn't wish to attack, but that she cannot attack. The Holy Demonis consumed a considerable amount of energy just now, so how could she fight again so soon? An older Abyssal said. By this point, the battle had reached a burning hot stage. Lin Ming and Shang Mei's battle just now had exchanged wound for wound. If they continued to fight, if this battle became any more brutal, then there would be dire combat techniques that came out next, such as someone burning their source soul force or blood essence as the price for greater strength. And in this competition, this sort of behavior was against the rules. After all, this was only a mere comparison of skills to begin with and not a life or death slaughter. Any moves that caused permanent losses or where both sides were forced to perish together were forbidden. Because if one person used such a technique, then everyone else would too, and the gains simply weren't worth the losses. As the older Abyssal spoke, everyone looked towards Shang Mei. At this time, a continuously growing strength rose up within her, slowly supplementing her strength. Just now she had used her 9 Revolution Red Lotus, fusing together the power of hope and desire from 9 reincarnations. This was tantamount to 9 Shang Mice attacked together, and thus the amount of demon power that she consumed was 9 times that of her all-out attack. If an ordinary martial artist or Abyssal were to use such an attack, then they would nearly exhaust themselves to nothing. However, Shang Mei had only slightly paled and her strength was slowly recovering. This was because with the power of life from the Holy Scripture laws, Shang Mei's blood vitality and physical strength were able to last much longer and restore themselves faster than those of a martial artist of the same level. As this scene fell into the eyes of the Abyssals present, they were all numb with amazement. Lin Ming's regenerative abilities were astonishing, but so were Shang Mei's. Lin Ming and Shang Mei, they were nothing but 2 monsters. Not only did they possess terrifying strength, laws, and speed, but their endurance was also at abnormal levels. If one wished to fight against such freaks, then one couldn't have any weakness at all, because these 2 had no weakness, and any weakness one possessed would become the reason for defeat. In the entire Dark Abyss, just who would dare compete with them? I will not lose here. Shang Mei glared at Lin Ming, her icy eyes shimmering. Whoever could defeat her at the same boundary could dual cultivate with her. These were words spoken by her own mouth and confirmed by Deep King Road. It was impossible for her to go back on her words. She didn't wish to compromise with Lin Ming, and compromise was likely useless to begin with. She could only put forth everything she had in this battle and use the endlessly growing strength within her body to drain Lin Ming dry of strength. And coincidentally, Lin Ming also had such a plan. Shang Mei's killing move was the 9 Revolution Red Lotus, and this was something that Lin Ming simply wasn't able to deal with right now. Once they fought, then he would surely be injured. The only positive part of this was that Shang Mei couldn't utilize this move multiple times because it consumed too much energy. Thus, Lin Ming prepared to use his strength to outlast Shang Mei and achieve victory in the end. Lin Ming knew that Shang Mei had the laws of life to rely on. But Lin Ming was even more confident in what he relied on, because he still had his true self within his demon avatar. Lin Ming couldn't use his true self to fight, thus he couldn't do anything to Shang Mei right now because he couldn't display his peak strength. However, Lin Ming's true self resided in his demon avatar's inner world, and he could continuously transmit strength into his avatar's body. In terms of endurance, who could compete with him? This was the same as 2 fighting against 1. Moreover, the 2 of them had abnormal levels of endurance. As long as the fight continued at a steady pace, then he would emerge victorious in the end. After an incense stick of time passed, Lin Ming could feel that his wounds had more or less healed. Then, he moved. When he moved this time, he didn't even use the Black Dragon Spear, but simply punched out with his fist. His fist was like a meteor, thundering down onto Shang Mei's chest. Wah! 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 Abyssal laws condensed into a vortex of runes around Lin Ming's fist, forming an all-swallowing black hole. Several blood dragons rushed out from this black hole, roaring and snapping their jaws at Shang Mei. Each of these blood dragons contained the power of swallowing. In truth, they were similar to Famine's tentacles. Swallowing laws. All of the abyssals watching could see this clearly. In the dark abyss, only a small minority of higher abyssals could grasp this tyrannical and overbearing law which allowed one to swallow the strength of others for one's own use, to swallow the flesh and blood of others as one's own nourishment. This was an extremely cruel and evil law, one envied by all abyssals. This brat, how can he understand the swallowing laws? Everything good has been taken by him. At this time, no one doubted Lin Ming's bloodline. For him to possess the swallowing laws was well within reason, because the swallowing laws were one of the signs of a higher abyssal. Facing these blood dragon tentacles, Shang Mei didn't dodge. Her delicate eyebrows furrowed together and the sword in her hands came slashing down, severing all the tentacles. Ca. Sword light radiated outwards. Blood flew out into the air. Shang Mei had already planned to engage Lin Ming in a battle of endurance. Thus, she naturally wouldn't let go of any chances to exchange attacks with him. She believed that with her laws supporting her she would eventually be the one to persist until the end. Lin Ming was truly abnormal, but in this aspect he might not be able to compare with her. Moreover, when comparing endurance, the truth was that it was also a battle of willpower. If one possessed great willpower, this often allowed them to surpass their own limits. Shang Mei was confident in her own willpower, because no matter what she could not lose this battle. She no longer had an escape path left open to her. She didn't dare to imagine herself being pressed down beneath the gigantic body of this abyssal and just how disgusting and stomach-wrenching that would be. Rumble, rumble, rumble. The intense collision stirred up raging waves of energy and caused the light barrier of the deep King Force field to violently tremble. In a breath of time, Lin Ming and Shang Mei exchanged over 100 moves. They fought speed with speed and didn't pause their onslaught against each other. They tried to preserve as much strength even as they tried to use up their opponent's strength. This was a short but furious battle that was extremely taxing on their energy. At this time, both Shang Mei and Lin Ming naturally discovered each other's plans. They had come up with the same idea to win. Shang Mei's eyes lit up with blazing fighting intent and the corners of her lips curved up in a smile. And while Lin Ming's eyes remained indifferent, his heart was filled with confidence. They both brimmed with confidence because they both believed in their secret cards that gave them endurance. As the fight heated up, it became increasingly intense and savage. Many abyssals only saw a great storm rise up within the deep King Force field. But as for the exact process of the fight, none of them were able to clearly see what was occurring. They are comparing endurance. It seems that the difference in strength between the two of them is too minor, so neither can do anything to the other, thus they have decided to use time to settle victory and defeat. An abyssal elder said on the side of Deep King Road. Her Highness the Holy Demoness possesses a horrifying level of endurance, let alone abyssals at the same level. Even true divinity level abyssals might not be able to compare with her. But her opponent is also a monster. From him, it seems anything is possible. Her Highness the Holy Demoness might not be able to win. Another elder of Deep King Road said. In Deep King Road, the status of the members present was decided by strength. This elder's status was below Shang Mei's, thus when he spoke of her he had to use a respectful tone. But at this time, Deep Epic chuckled. He said, the battle has already gone this far, and I'm beginning to see things differently. Perhaps losing might not be a bad thing at all. Oh? You are meaning. The ancient Ian sect doesn't know where the ninth elder comes from either. After this battle, we will look up more information on him. The truth is that if the Holy Demoness doesn't marry for the rest of her life, that isn't a plan at all. Although she might not care about it, her bloodline is so excellent. If it isn't inherited by her descendants, then wouldn't it just be wasted? We have to find a way to marry her off. And if my Deep King Rhodes Holy Demonis were to marry, then if we look through the entire Dark Abyss, just who can match up with her? This ninth elder came out of nowhere, and although I might not like him too much, I have to acknowledge that he is the best possible candidate. As Deep Epic spoke, the other elders nodded in agreement. Indeed, this was true. In their eyes, Lin Ming was truly an indisputable top choice. The Dark Abyss was a land that revered powerhouses above all, and if a higher abyssal like Lin Ming wished to choose someone to marry, then there would be countless abyssal women who would desperately flock to him. In the abyss, powerful and rugged abyssals, those with towering and thick builds, if they possessed enough strength, then they were far more welcomed than the pretty and handsome male incubuses amongst the succubus demon race. And Lin Ming's strength, his ferocious and bulging muscles, all of that was perfectly aligned with this point. However, they never imagined that Shang Mei was simply unable to accept the aesthetic sense of the abyssal demons. She absolutely could not. Chapter 21-27a of the finale. On the Deep King Wheel, Lin Ming and Shang Mei's battle continued. The two of them maintained their extreme speed. Every time they exchanged moves was like a collision of planets. Shang Mei's wings stretched out. Howling gales wrapped around her body, her figure drifting in an unpredictably bizarre fashion. Whoosh! The black dragon spear cut through the void, savagely tearing towards Shang Mei's chest and piercing through. In that moment, the hearts of many abyssals tightened. But in the next moment that Shang Mei vanished, leaving behind only the black dragon spear, it had been nothing more than an afterimage. The true Shang Mei had already appeared behind Lin Ming. Her sword came falling down, sword-like recklessly gushing out like a black tide, tumbling and roaring. In that instant, from within the inner world of Lin Ming's demon avatar, the heretical god tree appeared. The air filled with demonic energy as a bone tree drilled towards the heavens. Demonic fire and thunder howled out, tainted with the power of demons as it welcomed the turbulent swordlight. Bang! The swordlight and Lin Ming's demon power exploded and vanished together. Lin Ming didn't even turn his head. The black dragon spear came roaring out behind, the spear point drawing a full moon as he struck out in a circle. Shang Mei's body was blown away like a flower petal by this horrific strength. Her protective demon essence violently shook, and she couldn't help but gather her wings together to resist Lin Ming's strike. Whoosh! Beneath the tremendous impact force, Shang Mei was sent hurtling away like a meteor. She crashed into the Deep King force field's light barrier. But, before the abyssals watching could even cry out in alarm, her figure instantly disappeared. And in the next moment, the black dragon spear struck the area Shang Mei had just vanished from. A terrifying explosion rang out once more. The fierce intensity of this battle left the abyssals watching dizzy with wonder. Most of the abyssals present were simply unable to see the fighting process between Shang Mei and Lin Ming. Only the constantly shivering Deep King force field and the flashes of shadows all around the light barrier reminded them just how cruel and savage this battle was. Time marched on. 2 hours, 4 hours. This intense fight continued for all this time without a single chance for anyone to catch their breath. Every move was met head-on with equally terrifying resilience. Lin Ming and Shang Mei both relied on their potent restorative abilities to continue this battle. As time passed, Shang Mei felt more and more alarmed. This battle had indeed gone as she had expected. It beat on with a rhythm of dragging on the battle, with both parties being drained of energy. But although this was the process she expected, it might not be the result she expected. Lin Ming's endurance was simply far too dreadful. If anyone were to consume energy at such a rate, then let alone an Empyrean-level abyssal, even a true divinity might have already been completely exhausted, like a dried-up oil lamp. But Lin Ming was able to continue onwards, even becoming increasingly brutal as the battle raged on. Shang Mei's strength, on the other hand, was being weakened. Although the Holy Scripture laws were heaven-defying, the so-called endlessly growing still had its limits. If the battle continued like this, then the first one to fall over might be herself. Xiang Mei's speed had already slowed down. This scene fell into the eyes of all the abyssals watching. In terms of endurance, Deep King Road's Holy Demonis was unexpectedly losing to the Ancient Aeon sect's ninth elder. Endurance was an important aspect of a martial artist's strength. In truth, from the very start, from feeling alone, Lin Ming consumed more energy than Xiang Mei did. This was because in terms of his size, the might of his moves, all of it used more strength than Xiang Mei. Even so, the first one who wouldn't be able to persist was Xiang Mei. Ca. Another ray of sword light slashed down towards Lin Ming before being scattered by his strength. The moment the sword light shattered, the black dragon spear in Lin Ming's hands thrust out like a viper, straight towards Xiang Mei's left rib. This was an extremely tricky attack angle. However, Xiang Mei didn't dodge. Her left wing suddenly spread out and cut down at the black dragon spear. Gotcha! The sound of a fierce collision rang out. From the surface of the black dragon spear, chips of bone scattered out. But Xiang Mei's left wing had nearly been pierced through by the black dragon spear and was now dripping with blood. In that moment Lin Ming's eyes flashed with surprise. Xiang Mei had relied on nearly just the strength of her mortal body to resist this strike, and didn't use her demon power at all. Otherwise her wing wouldn't have been torn by his spear strike. But then, Xiang Mei stretched out her arm and grabbed hold of the black dragon spear. Her delicate and exquisite jade-white arm wrapped around the thick black dragon spear, clasping the shaft right beneath her arm. Ka 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 ka. All around Xiang Mei, the void shattered. An ice phoenix howled out and threw itself onto the black dragon spear. For a time, the black dragon spear began to rapidly freeze over, and as for Lin Ming who was gripping it, he suddenly paused. Cold energy recklessly rushed into Lin Ming's body from all directions. Xiang Mei had released her deep ice force field once more, but this time the force field had been reduced to the smallest area possible, all of it compressed onto Lin Ming's body. Without a doubt, she was risking everything on this move. From between Xiang Mei's eyebrows, the 9 revolutions red lotus began to shine brilliantly. The void seemed to overlap and shiver. The revolving lotus flower once again manifested into 9 revolutions of worlds. When these worlds were joined together, one could see mountains and rivers within them, plants and beasts and birds, a billion lives being born and destroyed. Within each world sat a cross-legged Xiang Mei. This was the power of hope and desire of Xiang Mei's 9 reincarnations. The 9 Xiang mice gathered their hands together in prayer, their expressions one of supreme reverence. In that moment, their power of hope and desire gathered together, forming a golden river of stars that crashed down atop Lin Ming. Was this the final move? Lin Ming's pupils shrank. Xiang Mei didn't hesitate to suffer injuries in order to seal away his movement. All of this was in order to keep him at a close distance where she could use the 9 revolutions red lotus to engage in a final showdown with him. This was because she had discovered that in terms of endurance, she might not be able to overcome him. This time, seeing the 9 revolutions of worlds form into sword light that slashed down on him, Lin Ming's heart and mind were as still as water. From his inner world, the blood of Azura began to burn. Even Lin Ming's 3 avatars of essence, energy, and divine poured their strength into the demon avatar without reserve. A blinding radiance burst out from Lin Ming's eyes. In his inner world, the Azura wheel was fused with and covered by the power of demons. Then, the Azura wheel turned into a giant demon wheel that rose up from behind Lin Ming. Wild demon power filled the air. A peerless demon appeared, slowly pushing the wheel forwards. This was the demon phantom formed by the Azura phantom. The wheel contained thousands and millions of great demons roaring within. Inside, there was also the flesh and blood essence of the totem-level abyssal demon, Famine. As this demon wheel revolved, Lin Ming used both his hands and pushed outwards. Lin Ming had poured all of his strength into this demon wheel and now it welcomed Xiang Mei's 9 revolutions red lotus. Ka 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 ka. Chapter 21-27b, The Finale. The demon wheel cut down onto the 9 revolutions Red Lotus. Celestial bodies would be grinded apart by it, and even the river of time seemed to shake. During this fierce collision, the power of hope and desire from 9 reincarnations and the great demon wheel began to wear away at each other. The strength of all laws, every ray of light, space, and time, beneath the impact of these 2 great strengths, everything seemed to stir up, forming visible beams of energy that fell down upon the deep King Force field in torrents. The deep King Force field's light barrier wildly shook. Because of the extended battle, the energy saved within the 12 totem poles was insufficient. Underneath this final impact, the deep King Force field wasn't able to withstand the enormous destructive force, and a tiny gap was ripped open. Ping! 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 From all over the force field, the abyssal phantoms that covered the array formation's light barrier began to explode together. Beams of law lights gathered together, shooting out from deep King Force field and recklessly spraying outwards. These light beams were energy blades formed by the collision of Lin Ming and Shang Mei. Each one possessed a terrifying penetrating force, destroying wherever it went. Be careful! An abyssal cried out in alarm. To some of the weaker abyssals, any one of these light beams could easily pierce through them and take their lives. The younger abyssals quickly retreated, even taking out their weapons to fend off these light beams. But at this time, the true divinity-level elders actually stepped forwards. They summoned protective shields of demon power that blocked all the light beams. They actually drained dry the energy from the totem poles. This is just defying the heavens. Deep Epic frowned. The Deep King Force field was the sex-stabilizing array formation of Deep King Road. With Lin Ming and Shang Mei's strength, they shouldn't have been able to break through it. However, they had actually managed to forcefully exhaust the energy contained in the array formation. At this time, within the array formation, Lin Ming and Shang Mei were in the center of the collision, both of them covered in blood. Shang Mei's clothes were torn in numerous places. Her battle armor was broken and her long hair fluttered wildly about her. And Lin Ming was in an even more tragic state. His chest was smothered in blood. The 9 revolutions Red Lotus had been broken apart by the demon wheel, but as the Tuavs passed by him it nearly split him in half. Although Lin Ming's wounds were heavier, he actually had more strength remaining. This was because within the inner world of Lin Ming's demon avatar, his true self and his 3 avatars were continuously supplying the demon avatar with energy. This was the source of Lin Ming's trump card. But in comparison, because Shang Mei had already consumed a great deal of energy and the 9 revolutions Red Lotus she used once more, her face was already pale white. She had used up all her strength. Lin Ming roared out and grasped the Black Dragon Spear. From beneath Shang Mei's arm, the Black Dragon Spear crazily shook. Gotcha! The cold ice that froze over the shaft of the Black Dragon Spear shattered, and even the bone armor atop the spear began to burst apart. Lin Ming violently dragged out the spear, pulling the Black Dragon's spear out from the wreckage of broken ice and bone. Shang Mei's delicate eyebrows pressed together and a trace of blood dripped from the corners of her lips. The Black Dragon Spear had been pulled out from beneath her right arm, and because of the shattered bone cutting her as it was pulled out, her right side was covered in blood. Lin Ming's eyes flashed with a cold light. The power of the 9 stars of the Dao Palace boiled over from within him as he suddenly pierced out the spear. The spear point continued to tremble as the power of laws billowed outwards, shooting forth like a river of stars and releasing a terrifying brilliance that submerged Shang Mei. Shang Mei's pupils shrank. At this moment she could feel death approach. This scene was fixed in the eyes of those watching for eternity. The light of laws that danced in the air was like faded flower petals fluttering downwards. As for Shang Mei shrouded in light, she was a black butterfly that had transformed into a fairy maiden. Her long hair danced about her and she barely managed to use her still movable left wing as a shield. Beneath this black wing, Shang Mei's peerless looks were as cold and arrogant as a mountain of ice. Her eyes weren't focused on the spear that thrust towards her with cold brilliance, but the approaching Lin Ming's face. In her bright pupils, the image of Lin Ming was clearly reflected. This sight seemed to touch something in Lin Ming's heart. Just as the black dragon spear was about to stab into the point between Xiang Mei's eyebrows, Lin Ming turned his arm, changing the trajectory of the spear slightly so that it passed Xiang Mei's cheek and turned out instead. Puff! Lin Ming's spear light stabbed into the Deep King Force Field's light barrier. The Deep King Force Field had originally been exhausted of energy and was now no longer capable of resisting Lin Ming's strike. The black dragon spear directly pierced through it. Ka ka ka! Atop the barrier of light, cracks began to spread out like a spider web, proliferating at a rapid pace. In a mere moment, the egg-like light barrier burst apart. Energy fell down like rain, sprinkling down onto the world like the endless stars glittering in the skies. And in the inexhaustible rain of light, Lin Ming and Xiang Mei stood in the void. The black dragon spear's point was only 3 inches away from Xiang Mei's beautiful face, or it cut off a strand of her black hair. Time came to a standstill. Xiang Mei looked at Lin Ming, an indescribable look emerging in her eyes. She had been defeated. In a frontal battle, she had actually been defeated by a higher abyssal who had a lower cultivation than she did. This truth was hard for her to accept. At this moment, an inexplicable feeling began to rise up in her heart. This abyssal that held the spear in front of her left her confused and muddled. Although he was close, she couldn't see through him at all. After the Deep King Force Field exploded and while the rain of light was still silently falling, all around the battlefield the entire audience had fallen silent. The winner and loser of this battle was already clear to all. In that last spear strike, if Lin Ming hadn't held back, then Xiang Mei wouldn't even be able to stand there right now. He won, he really won? The elders and disciples of the ancient Ian sect felt as if they were living a dream. Within the dark abyss, Deep King Road's holy Demonis was no different from a living legend, but now that living legend had been beaten by an elder of their ancient Ian sect, and this elder had even jumped ranks to do so. Did this mean that their ancient Ian sect would develop a relationship of marriage with Deep King Road? As the disciples of the ancient Ian sect thought of the numerous rumors concerning Deep King Road's holy Demonis, and as they recalled the countless higher abyssals that chased after her, they couldn't help but gulp. While they admired and envied Lin Ming at the same time, they felt that everything that just occurred was too fantastical. But as for the other small influences around the ancient Ian sect, they were so envious that their eyes turned red. However, none of them dared to speak out at this time. In the dark abyss, strength was the ultimate deterrence. Lin Ming had already proven his own strength. As long as he didn't perish, then in the future his accomplishments would even surpass those of Xiang Mei. Facing such a ruthless person, who dared make snide remarks? In fact, the abyssals that taunted Lin Ming before began to feel weak at heart. They were all afraid that Lin Ming would remember their taunts. Her Highness the Holy Demonis really lost. A Deep King Road elder said with deep emotion, unsure of what feeling was in his heart. There was a bit of loss, but also a bit of expectation. Who could say what would happen in the future? What do we do? An elder asked Deep Epic. Deep Epic waved his hand, saying, "We do what we have to do, and that is naturally to conduct the grand dual cultivation ceremony. But this matter needs to be reported to the higher-ups. The sovereign is secretive in his movements, a dragon that cannot be seen, so the report shouldn't be for him. Instead, report this matter to the Great Elder." In Deep King Road, above Deep Epic was an upper true divinity level abyssal elder. Besides Deep, this elder could be called the highest authority of Deep King Road. Chapter 21-28, Marriage. On the Deep King Wheel, the dense rain of light subsided. From all around, many of the surrounding disciples and elders of the abyssal influences had yet to respond. Then, many abyssals began to quietly discuss amongst themselves. To them, this scene was a dream they never would have imagined. Those from Deep King Road, are you ready to announce the end of the match? At this time, the great elder of the ancient Ian sect stood up, drawing the gaze of many nearby abyssals. Without a doubt, the ancient Ian sect had been able to feel proud and overjoyed, and even earned a great deal of face in front of everyone. There were many elders of large influences present who coveted the status of the ancient Ian sect. As they looked at Ian God, their complexions were filled with envy and unwillingness. The Deep King Road elder responsible for overseeing the competition awkwardly coughed. Then, he stepped onto the Deep King wheel and loudly announced, "The battle has ended. The victor is the 9th elder of the ancient Ian sect." The stag remained silent. Many abyssals discovered that even until now, they didn't know what the name of this ancient Ian sect's 9th elder was. Then, concerning marriage, I believe that everyone from Deep King Road will not forget, right? Ian God spoke out once more, looking towards the elders of Deep King Road before glancing over at Shang Mei. At this time, the elders of Deep King Road all had various emotions written on their faces, and as for Shang Mei, her complexion was paler than normal. In Lin Ming's last strike, because of the laws Lin Ming used, the strangely familiar aura, and finally Lin Ming suddenly holding back, a weird feeling began to surge in her heart. This was something that tickled her mind, yet she wasn't able to place a finger on it. For a time, Shang Mei thought she wanted to understand just where this strange feeling originated from. But after hearing Elder Ian God's words, everything she felt towards Lin Ming suddenly disappeared. In her pupils, Lin Ming's demonic incarnation was reflected in them. This fierce black monster had shattered scales all over his body, and the 2 bone blades that jutted out from his elbows had broken off. His entire body was covered in blood, and it seemed that his injuries were far more serious than her own. At this time, his dark brown eyes were also gazing back at her. By now, Lin Ming had already undone the Azura body metamorphosis and had returned to a normal size. Of course, this was in comparison to the life forms of the 33 heavens. He was still towering and thickly built, and even though Shang Mei was tall herself, she only reached just below Lin Ming's chest. Shang Mei simply found this hard to accept, that this monster had defeated her and would soon obtain her. Ha ha ha. At this time, Elder Deep Epic laughed and his foot came hurrying forwards. He appeared atop the Deep King wheel, right between Lin Ming and Shang Mei. What Elder Ian God said is correct. Since your sect's 9th elder has won, then we will naturally fulfill our side of the promise and allow our Deep King Road's holy demoness to marry your 9th elder in a grand dual cultivation ceremony. Elder Deep Epic readily agreed, causing the elders of smaller influences to be startled. As for the younger abyssals, they were despondent upon hearing this. Even if Shang Mei didn't marry Lin Ming, they were clearly aware that it still wouldn't be their turn. But, upon knowing that the most perfect goddess in the entire dark abyss would be ravaged by such a towering and ferocious abyssal demon, they still found this somewhat hard to accept. This sort of feeling was like seeing the most perfect thing in existence being polluted. As for Shang Mei, her eyelids jumped up as she heard Elder Deep Epic's words. She looked at Lin Ming but didn't speak. However, the light in her eyes clearly turned much colder. Elder Deep Epic is truly refreshing. Ian God laughed. Then, tomorrow my ancient Ian sect will prepare a dowry gift to settle this marriage. How about it? Ha ha. Elder Ian God is too courteous. We can discuss this wedding further. After all, this must be a grand occasion for all of us. Elder Deep Epic didn't oppose Lin Ming marrying Shang Mei. In his opinion, this would also be something beneficial to Deep King Road. Then about the date of this marriage ceremony. Elder Ian God continued to say. What he planned was to publicly confirm a marriage date so that they could avoid future nights of headaches. Although Lin Ming had seemingly appeared from nowhere, and his victory of Shang Mei had left all the abyssals bewildered, in the end Lin Ming was still an elder of their ancient Ian sect. If the ancient Ian sect could use Lin Ming to climb the big tree that was Deep King Road, then Elder Ian God would absolutely love for this to occur. After all, the ancient Ian sect had suffered crisis after crisis and countless influences were eyeing them, waiting for them to break apart so that they could be replaced. Elder Ian God is quite impatient. However, there is still some time until the demon god's tomb opens, so if we do hold the dual cultivation ceremony before then, although it may be a bit hastily done, I don't see any reason why we can't. Deep Epic rubbed his chin and looked at Lin Ming. According to any logical reasoning, it would be best for Lin Ming to emerge from the demon god's tomb before the grand dual cultivation ceremony was held, since the demon god's tomb was filled with dangers and anything could happen within. However, in Deep Epic's view, a peerless genius like Lin Ming would likely have a ridiculously tough life. At the very least, nothing should happen to him in the demon god's tomb. If they could hold the grand dual cultivation ceremony ahead of time, then this would be proof that Deep King Road trusted Lin Ming, and this would help them strengthen their relationship with Lin Ming in the future. Deep Epic and Ian God continued to agree with each other, seeming as if they would almost put the marriage on today's agenda. And by this time, Xiang Mei finally found it hard to remain calm. If she didn't say anything, then she feared that within several days, she would have to marry Lin Ming in front of all these abyssals. It just so happened that because of the demon god's tomb, all of the influences that were connected to Deep King Road had gathered here. All of them had been sent written invitations. She sent a sound transmission to Lin Ming. "I must speak with you." "What is there to talk about?" Lin Ming glanced at Xiang Mei. Seeing her pale face, a strange feeling stirred in his heart. This was an extremely complex feeling, one that seemed to originate from dark feelings, from the pleasure of taking revenge. But inevitably, it also came from Lin Ming's unclear feelings about Xiang Mei. Lin Ming's deepest impression of Xiang Mei had been her cold and callous actions as she took his eternal soul and left. But, when he had lost his strength and was completely dried up, on the verge of death, it was in that moment that he felt the warmth and fullness brought about by Xiang Mei's source, soul force, and life essence. If it weren't for those things she left him, then he wouldn't have been able to understand the samsara of life and death before he perished, and he wouldn't have been able to comprehend the grand reincarnation art and slowly restore himself. Xiang Mei gave Lin Ming a life-saving grace. However, Lin Ming couldn't clearly see through her actions or reasons. This caused Lin Ming to subconsciously be on guard against her, not trusting her, but also caring for her. Because of his actions and the upcoming promise of dual cultivation, Xiang Mei was unable to maintain the cold arrogance of her heart. Instead, she nervous and panicked due to the upcoming agreement, and Lin Ming couldn't help but take pleasure in this sort of revenge. Even though Lin Ming had experienced so many things in his life, it was still hard for him to rid himself of this part of human nature. "Who are you? Where did you come from? What's your name?" Xiang Mei asked Lin Ming. "Who I am, where I come from, those aren't things you need to concern yourself with. As for my name, you can call me Ninth Elder." Lin Ming didn't plan to tell Xiang Mei about his own status. Even if he inwardly wanted to believe in Xiang Mei, she was still someone that worked from the Soul Emperor and someone who had complicated relations with Deep King Road. There was even a chance that she was an abyssal demon, a mortal enemy to him. In this sort of situation, Lin Ming couldn't guarantee that Xiang Mei wouldn't betray him if she were threatened by someone or tempted by something. For instance, if she were tempted by that peak of martial arts so longed for in her dreams. Moreover, Lin Ming had a faint feeling that to a certain extent, Xiang Mei was being controlled by the Soul Emperor. At the very least, the Soul Emperor was aware of all her actions. In this case, if Xiang Mei were to know who he truly was, then it would be far too dangerous. After listening to Lin Ming's words, Xiang Mei frowned, clearly unsatisfied with his reply. After all, they would likely have to conduct the grand dual cultivation ceremony soon, and he wouldn't even tell her his name. "I want to make a deal with you," Xiang Mei icily said. She was already disinclined to banter with Lin Ming. The brief spell of goodwill towards him that had magically appeared from nowhere had disappeared. Even Xiang Mei couldn't clearly explain why she would have even the least bit of favorable impression towards this barbaric abyssal demon that was brimming over with an evil aura. "What kind of deal?" Lin Ming's eyes rose, his attention suddenly stirring. Chapter 21-29, Xiang Mei's Conditions. Xiang Mei expressionlessly said, "I can hold the grand dual cultivation ceremony with you, but after our marriage, then we will be river water and well water, not interfering with each other. I will not manage your affairs, and you will not bother me." Lin Ming couldn't help but feel humored by Xiang Mei's words. He inevitably found himself thinking of a scene where his demon avatar shared a bed with Xiang Mei. With that sort of mental image, no wonder Xiang Mei found it impossible to accept. Thinking of this, Lin Ming's lips curved up in a smile. He slowly asked, "Why would I do that?" Lin Ming's words carried with them a slight playful and provocative tone, immediately rousing Xiang Mei's anger. Still, no matter how things were said, the reality was that she had lost to Lin Ming. Moreover, she was the one who had decided the rules. Only the heavens knew why she would encounter such an abnormality today and suffer such a great loss. Thus, even if she was filled with disgust towards Lin Ming, she couldn't help but admit defeat and say in a softened voice, "Your talent defies the will of the heavens." Looking at the entire dark abyss, any beautiful women, succubus demons, goddesses, all of them are within hand's reach. As long as you wish, then countless beauties will be willing to dual cultivate with you, so what do you care if you are lacking one? I will not manage your affairs, and in fact I will even provide all sorts of assistance to you. As long as you do not bother me, then I am even willing to pay a certain price for this. Pay a price? Lin Ming's thoughts stirred. When Lin Ming joined this competition, the original reason he did so was to prove his own value and strength so that he could earn the qualifications to take the Book of Ian into the demon god's tomb. The second reason was because he wished to compare his strength with that of Xiang Mei. Upon reaching Lin Ming's level, there were far too martial artists that were able to compete with him on the same boundary. Finding an opponent was far too hard. He and Xiang Mei were both born in the same era, like Yin and Yang. Between the two of them, their battle had already been decided by destiny. As for taking advantage of someone when they were done, well, these were rules that Xiang Mei had laid down herself to begin with. And when it came to forming relations with Xiang Mei, Lin Ming hadn't considered this at all. He and Xiang Mei weren't lovers. Although they had come together once on the Skyspill planet, that was because he had been forced to due to the situation he had been in. Lin Ming had feelings towards Xiang Mei, but it was impossible for his sentiments to be as deep as what he felt towards Xiao Maxian. And he couldn't take advantage of his past relationship with Xiang Mei to do anything out of the ordinary with her that an abyssal normally wouldn't do. But now, hearing Xiang Mei mention that she would offer certain conditions on her own initiative, Lin Ming was actually quite interested. "First tell me what price you are willing to pay," Lin Ming lazily said as he traced his chin. Although taking advantage of someone in dire straits wasn't the actions of a gentleman, he and Xiang Mei were in opposing factions, thus he naturally had to do everything to fight for advantages. "You can raise any conditions you wish. I will try to satisfy them as long as they aren't overly excessive." Xiang Mei relaxed as she heard Lin Ming agree to this, and she didn't care if Lin Ming might try to ask for too much. Lin Ming chuckled inwardly. In truth, he already knew what he wanted. Still, he pretended to hesitate for a moment and then said to Xiang Mei, "Demon crystals, I have no lack of. Even if it's top-grade demon crystals, I have no interest. As for blood pills, medicines, I have more than enough. Weapons I have too, and you won't necessarily be able to provide me with anything better. It seems that on your entire body, there isn't anything that attracts me." Lin Ming's words were said to establish a psychological superiority. But, as Xiang Mei heard them, they were somewhat grating on the ears. In particular when Lin Ming said that there was nothing on her body that attracted him. If an ordinary woman were to hear this, they would have already become enraged, but Xiang Mei's expression remained unchanged, as if she were some glacier that had existed for 1,000,000 years. She frowned and said, "Stop playing games. Just state your conditions." Good." Lin Ming smiled. "Although I don't want to take advantage of you, you should also know that if I were to dual cultivate with you, regardless of whether it was you or me, it would greatly enhance our strength. The rules were set down by you, but in the end you simply wished to go back on your promise. Then, I should obtain corresponding compensation. Your final 9 revolutions 9 lotus isn't bad, as well as the dual concepts of endlessness and annihilation in your sword. I am very much interested in them. My conditions are that I wish to borrow them to observe and perceive. Lin Ming had long since wanted to look at the whole and complete Holy Scripture. 12,000 years ago, when Lin Ming obtained the Holy Scripture in the Soul World, the truth was that it was only a duplicate of the Golden Pages. As for the Black Book that recorded death within, Lin Ming had never even seen it before. He relied on the source soul force that Shang Mei left within him to slowly perceive, joining with it his understands he gained through the samsara of life and death to comprehend it a bit at a time. Although the things he comprehended himself also most suited himself, he was still restrained by time. If it came to might alone, then it was impossible for his version to compare with the complete and original Holy Scripture. Hearing Lin Ming's request, Shang Mei pressed her eyebrows together. According to all logical reasoning, the Holy Scripture simply wasn't suitable for abyssals to cultivate. But, as she thought about it, Lin Ming seemed to understand the Holy Scripture laws to some extent that he was able to break through them. She actually suspected that if she were really to lend him the Holy Scripture, then he would be able to perceive many things from it. You shouldn't go too far. The dual laws of life and destruction are the foundations of my cultivation. It is impossible for me to give them to you. Shang Mei flat out refused. Lin Ming fell into thought, no longer speaking. Shang Mei felt a bit afraid but didn't speak either. If neither of them could come to an agreement, then she really didn't know what she would do. The truth was that if they didn't share a bed even after marriage, then that would be equal to breaching her promise. If this matter were to spread out, then it would be on the same level as breaking an engagement. I will take a step back. Concerning the laws of life and destruction, I only want the laws of destruction. I have confidence in my own endurance, so I have no need for the power of endlessness. Rather, destruction suits me more. Lin Ming put forth his earliest desire at this critical moment. He had already seen the Golden Pages, so he didn't need them. What he truly wished to see was the Black Book of Death. In fact, when Lin Ming first entered the dark abyss, he had found the skeletal remains of the mysterious woman from 10 billion years past who resembled Shang Mei. Atop these bones were engraved the law runes of the Holy Scripture. However, bone runes were in the end bone runes. They were symbols condensed from the laws after a martial artist's cultivation reached large success, and not the earliest step for cultivation. Lin Ming still had flaws in his understanding of the Holy Scripture, and he wished to make up for these faults with Shang Mei's assistance. Shang Mei looked at Lin Ming and bit her lips. 3 days. I will give you only 3 days, and the amount you can comprehend will depend on you. This was Shang Mei's final concession, 3 days to look at the original text. No matter how high Lin Ming's perception was, the most he could do was crudely memorize the laws, and he might not even be able to finish the entire book. And without the original text, he could only cultivate by himself, and it would also be impossible for him to leak anything outwards. Moreover, without the laws of life, it was impossible for Lin Ming's attainments to reach any high boundary. Of course, these were Shang Mei's thoughts. But they were exactly what Lin Ming wished for. He smiled. Good, then it's 3 days. 3 days was more than enough. This was because from Shang Mei's memories, his own comprehension, and the bone runes of that woman who seemed like the previous life of Shang Mei, he already had a deep understanding of the death laws. What he wanted now was to use the Black Book to thoroughly fuse his understandings together. Remember what you said, Shang Mei warned Lin Ming. As the two were secretly making a deal with sound transmissions, Elder Ian God and Elder Deep Epic were still discussing the date of the marriage. Without Shang Mei needing to remind him, Lin Ming directly said, "Two elders, I apologize for the disturbance, but I would like to hold the marriage after the trip into the Demon God's tomb." Lin Ming's words left Ian God and Deep Epic startled. Time is of the essence. I want to take advantage of the time before the Demon God's tomb opens to cultivate as much as I can. I don't wish to distract myself with the dual cultivation ceremony. Lin Ming's words finally caused Shang Mei's eyes to soften a little. If the dual cultivation ceremony could be delayed a bit longer, then that was naturally a good thing. Deep Epic looked towards Shang Mei and saw Shang Mei nod her head in agreement. Deep Epic opened his mouth as if he wanted to say something but eventually didn't. As the two parties of the wedding, Lin Ming and Shang Mei naturally had the authority to decide the date of the wedding. The truth was that Deep Epic wanted to say that if they could hold the grand dual cultivation ceremony before the demon god's tomb opened, then the two could start immediately dual cultivating, and that might even benefit their cultivation more. Deep Epic didn't say much and Ian God also tactfully remained silent. At this time, Lin Ming suddenly said, "Elder Deep Epic, I remember that before my match with the Holy Demoness, we agreed that if I were able to defeat her then I would obtain treatment at least on the level of a core disciple like the Holy Demoness?" Deep Epic thought that Lin Ming would originally talk about matters concerning the marriage, but he didn't think he would bring this up instead. "Yes, that's right. This is the foundational rules behind the alliance that by Deep King Road established. Whoever was strength will obtain more benefits. Moreover, you are already engaged to my Deep King Road's Holy Demoness, so you are now half a disciple of my Deep King Road. The promise that I made before will naturally be one that I keep." "Great." Lin Ming gently smiled. And beside Lin Ming, the ancient Ian sect's great elder let out a sigh of relief. He knew that Lin Ming wanted to bring the Book of Ian into the demon god's tomb. Lin Ming turned his hand and the Book of Ian appeared in his palm. The mysterious black book carried with it a profound and ancient abyssal strength. As it appeared, Elder Deep Epic's eyes widened and his heart shook. This is the Book of Ian." Lin Ming's voice reverberated through the entire audience. The Book of Ian could not be concealed. As long as someone brought it into the demon god's tomb, then others would discover it. Since that was the case, then he might as well take it out now and reveal it to the public, and then follow the rules established by Deep King Road to decide who would manage it. With Lin Ming's current status, with the strength he just proved in battle, and along with the fact that he was the one who originally found the Book of Ian, then by all reasoning he should be the one to hold it. The Book of Ian's appearance threw the entire audience into an uproar. Many abyssals stood up, staring at the black book in Lin Ming's hand with disbelief. The Book of Ian that had gone missing for billions of years was actually found today. Didn't this mean that the originally declining ancient Ian sect would revitalize the destiny of their sect? And with this Lin Ming who had come from nowhere, the ancient Ian sect would undergo earth-shaking changings overnight. The originally dispirited ancient Ian sect was now filled with infinite hope. Chapter 2130 Doubt. The Book of Ian. You actually have the Book of Ian. Deep Epic swept his eyes over Lin Ming and towards Elder Ian God. At this time, Ian God had a complicated expression on his face, but he clearly wasn't surprised by the sudden appearance of the Book of Ian. Then Deep Epic immediately understood what was going on. The truth was that the ancient Ian sect had the Book of Ian all along, and because they wanted the newly promoted ninth elder to struggle for more status, they then had him challenge Shang Mei for marriage. "Brother Ian God, to think you've been hiding this from me all this time." As Deep Epic spoke, Ian God ruefully smiled. Deep Epic likely thought that he knew Lin Ming was incredibly strong beforehand, thus he knew his chances of victory were most likely assured and was only pretending to not know. This speculation wronged Ian God, but Ian God didn't make any useless explanations. Rather, he looked at the Book of Ian in Lin Ming's hand with some conflicted feelings. Although Lin Ming was talented, if he were to bring the Book of Ian into the demon god's tomb, no one knew what would occur. He naturally hoped Lin Ming could pass the test of the abyssal ritual and become a totem-level abyssal demon. But if Lin Ming were truly to ascend and become Ian, what he would bring to the ancient Ian sect left Elder Ian God somewhat anxious. At that time, Lin Ming would rule over the entire ancient Ian sect and the lives of all the elders would be in his hands. "Elder Deep Epic, I plan on bringing the Book of Ian into the demon god's tomb. There shouldn't a problem with this, right?" Lin Ming asked. Deep Epic fell silent for a moment. At this time, Deep Epic somewhat dreaded Lin Ming's strength. This junior had already arrived at such heights, and if he were to bring the Book of Ian into the demon god's tomb and pass the abyssal ritual, then no one could imagine what might happen. There's no problem at all. Elder Deep Epic solemnly said as he took in a deep breath. At this time, Shang Mei was also looking at Lin Ming, her gaze turning complicated. So, you had the Book of Ian all along? Yes, Lin Ming glanced at Shang Mei and saw her let loose a gentle sigh. This light sigh left Lin Ming a bit puzzled. Just what was she sighing over? Shang Mei fell silent for some time, as if she were hesitating in saying some words to Lin Ming. Eventually, she shook her head and said to him with a sound transmission, "Do you know the price you will have to pay for bringing the Book of Ian into the demon god's tomb? I will become the target of everyone. I am well aware of that." "And you won't change your mind?" Shang Mei asked. Lin Ming smiled. "Aren't you also planning to enter the demon god's tomb with another ceremonial rites book? Since you haven't changed your mind, why must I?" Shang Mei sighed once more. "I am different from you. I advise you to give up." "Why?" Lin Ming frowned. He was left confused by Shang Mei's words of warning because he felt that Shang Mei wasn't doubting his strength or talent, but had other reasons for saying so. "That is as much as I can say. Whether or not you believe me, that is up to you." Shang Mei no longer spoke. Her words had left Lin Ming feeling cold in his heart. Perhaps, she knew something that he didn't. The competition between the three great influences ended. And following that was a competition between the smaller influences. And this also included some Empyrean-level abyssals from the three great influences. Those that entered the demon god's tomb weren't all true divinities. There were also Empyreans, and their goals were to go to the shallower, outer layers of the demon god's tomb, and they would remove themselves from competing for the totem-level abyssal inheritance. The ancient Ian sect had brought some such disciples here, and these disciples entered into the battlefield of the smaller influences. Because there were many of them, the battles would continue for a month. And during this period of time Lin Ming had calmly gone into seclusion. His place of residency was only several dozen feet from Shang Mei's own courtyard. In the dark abyss, the atmosphere was relatively barbaric and wild. Compared to the life forms of the 33 heavens, abyssal demons were far more casual and often preferred to indulge in their primal, sensual natures. Thus, whether it was the ancient Ian sect or Deep King Road, since Lin Ming and Shang Mei were already engaged, living together and dual cultivating during this time period wasn't a problem at all. So, it would be more convenient for their residences to be placed nearby. If Lin Ming and Shang Mei could dual cultivate and comprehend something, then it would be highly beneficial to them during this venture into the demon god's tomb. But in the end, regardless of whether it was Shang Mei or Lin Ming, they went into their rooms and no longer spoke to each other. Their only meeting was 3 days ago. Lin Ming, under Shang Mei's supervision, read a black book from beginning to end, recording all the runes, writings, and laws in his mind. The Black Book of Death was originally profound and esoteric in its knowledge. But to Lin Ming, who deeply understood the laws of death, it wasn't difficult to remember it in its entirety. The opening of the demon god's tomb was coming closer and closer. As Lin Ming perceived the Black Book of Death, he also mulled over Shang Mei's advice. During these days, besides perceiving the laws, Lin Ming also looked up information concerning the demon god's tomb. The demon god's tomb opened at random intervals. Sometimes it would open after 10 million years, sometimes every few 100 million years, or sometimes even every billion years. And the main reason for this was because finding one of the ancient ceremonial rites books wasn't easy at all. But in the past several billions of years, the demon god's tomb had been opened dozens of times. Yet, how many totem-level abyssals had been born from this? This was what Lin Ming cared about the most. If the demon god's tomb contained some hidden dangers that even Shang Mei would believe would make it too dangerous for him to pass the test of the abyssal ritual, then perhaps in the last several billion years there might not have been any abyssal demons that were truly capable of passing the abyssal ritual and transcending from a true divinity-level abyssal to a totem-level abyssal. However, when he truly searched through the ancient texts, he actually discovered the information concerning abyssals who entered the demon god's tomb in ancient times was pitifully lacking. This wasn't normal at all. It was clear that some information was sealed away so that future generations wouldn't be able to find out. As for things concerning the several totem-level abyssals, that information was shrouded in layers of secrecy. There were those that had gone missing, those that had died, and even those that were alive but were rarely seen, as if they would simply stay hidden until the end of time. For instance, the Demon Association's evil. There were some abyssals who believed that evil had died and some abyssals who believed that evil was alive. No one was able to come to an agreement. As for Deep King Rhodes Deep, it was truly living. However, there were some true divinity elders who had never seen deep even in their entire lives. There was also Great Flood Demon Kingdom's ruler, Flood. This was the last of the 6 totem-level abyssals that Lin Ming was aware of. Flood had established the Great Flood Demon Kingdom that occupied an incomparably broad domain. This was a super-divine kingdom, and its strength actually surpassed that of Deep King Road. In fact, Great Flood Demon Kingdom was renowned as the #1 influence of the entire Dark Abyss. With it as the lead, there were 2 other totem-level influences beneath it as well as a number of smaller influences gathered around it. The alliance they formed was the greatest opponent of Deep King Road's alliance. As for this flood, according to the sparse historical records, it had passed the abyssal ritual 2 billion years ago to ascend and become the newest totem-level abyssal from the demon god's tomb. From this alone it could be seen that the demon god's tomb wasn't an absolute death zone. In the last several billions of years, although there were only an extremely small number of totem-level abyssals born, they still appeared. The existence of Flood left Lin Ming with even more doubts. If totem-level abyssals could emerge from the demon god's tomb, then what was the meaning behind Shang Mei's warning? Shang Mei shouldn't know that he was a human. She believed he was an abyssal demon. In other words, if there was danger, then this danger was aimed towards all abyssals. Lin Ming would enter the demon god's tomb as an abyssal, and the dangers he would face would be no different from those of other abyssals. Dangers that were aimed at all would always be relatively better. At the very least, the Dark Abyss wouldn't produce a mystic realm of absolute death where the abyssals would send the strongest and those with the greatest potential to die. Lin Ming couldn't understand, so he continued to investigate information about Flood. Flood was the youngest of all the totem-level abyssals, but it was also incomparably mysterious. It rarely appeared, even in the Great Flood Demon Kingdom. It seemed that Deep and Flood were mortal enemies. Legends said that these 2 supreme powerhouses of the abyss fought once in the 16th layer, and the surrounding area for billions of miles had turned into desert and countless lives had been lost. Lin Ming shook his head as he read through this information. The Dark Abyss and the Demon God's tomb seemed to be hiding some secret. But, no matter what dangers there were lurking about, Lin Ming still had to explore it. He couldn't give up such a chance because he didn't have much time remaining. Lin Ming went into intermittent seclusion, perceiving the laws. Training continued without a sense of time. The day of the opening of the Demon God's tomb approached. Chapter 2131, Deep Child. Deep in the night, Shang Mei sat cross-legged in her chambers, shrouded in an endless illumination of black light. Thousands of strands of hair fluttered about her, emitting a light and enchanting fragrance. She seemed to be the source of all darkness in the universe. As long as a ray of light neared her, it would be cleanly swallowed away. Shang Mei was accumulating strength in order to prepare for attacking the true divinity realm in the future. In truth, her current cultivation was incredibly close to true divinity. Like a pool of water at night, although Shang Mei was sitting in her chambers, she could still clearly feel the flow of energy around her. She faintly felt that somewhere not too far away from her, the circulation of energy began to speed up, as if some storm were brewing. "It's him." Shang Mei opened her eyes, looking at some direction in the dark room. The direction she faced was the room where Lin Ming was. Shang Mei gazed on for a long time and then gently sighed. She was sighing not just for Lin Ming but also for herself. For these past years, she had shouldered far too many things that no one knew of. From the outside she seemed to be living an infinitely glorious and wonderful life, but at the same time she endured a fate of samsara that was beyond understanding. At this time, the abyssal laws suddenly began to stir up in the dark room. The laws and energy coalesced together, forking a small vortex, and within this small vortex was a simple bronze mirror. Shwa! With a loud sound, a black spatial gate appeared on the surface of the bronze mirror. The spatial gate revolved, emitting a misty black light. It seemed like the maw of an ancient vicious beast, ferocious and cruel. Seeing this, Xiang Mei frowned. She took back her wistful expression and returned to her heartless indifference. Junior apprentice sister. A sound echoed out from the spatial gate, thick and masculine, magnetic to the senses, one that was delightful to listen to. With it, an abyssal demon wearing purple battle armor stepped out from the spatial gate. As this abyssal appeared, the surrounding world seemed to resonate with him, beating in rhythm with the man's steps as if true meanings of the abyssal Tao were appearing. This abyssal was one of those that Deep King Road sent out to join the expedition into the demon god's tomb, this time, Deep Child. When the three great influences of Deep King Road, the ancient Ian sect, and Nine Nether Palace held their competition of true divinity masters, Deep King Road had sent out 6 true divinity level masters, among which Xiang Mei was included. Of these 6 abyssals, only one of them had a middle true divinity level cultivation, Deep Child. Because of Deep Child's high cultivation, neither the ancient Ian sect nor Nine Nether Palace had any elders dare to challenge him. Instead, many of those elders chose the one that seemed the weakest, Xiang Mei. But to their dismay, they finally discovered that Xiang Mei was actually an incredibly ruthless individual, and all 4 abyssal elders who thought to challenge her had been defeated. Junior apprentice sister's strength is becoming increasingly fierce, soon to break into the true divinity realm at any time. I fear that once Junior apprentice sister becomes a true divinity, even I will not be a match for you. Deep Child chuckled, his tone gentle. This voice didn't seem like that of an abyssal demon at all. A tall and robust abyssal like Deep Child usually had a loud and resonant voice, one that rang like a bell, low and deep, a voice that caused the ears to hum. But Deep Child spoke like a modest gentleman from one of the races of the 33 heavens, with a voice that sounded like a cool spring breeze. However, as Xiang Mei listened to him, a deep loathing and disgust flickered in the depths of her eyes. She said without expression, "The reason you came today is not to say this." It isn't. As Deep Child spoke, he took out a black jade slip and flipped it around in his fingers a few times. There is a little more than a month until the demon god's tomb opens. These are your orders, and the division of duty between us all is explicitly clear. However, I also hope that Junior apprentice sister will cooperate with me. Deep Child tossed the jade slip into Xiang Mei's hands, a playful expression on his face. Xiang Mei took the jade slip and swept through it. It only took her a breath of time to completely look through it. Without any reaction, Xiang Mei crumbled the jade slip in her hands. "I understand." Very good," Deep Child said, his face full of smiles. Looking at the present Xiang Mei, he couldn't help but twitch his nose several times and say with satisfaction, "Junior apprentice sister's cultivation is rising higher and higher, and with your grand reincarnation art having reached perfection, your aura is becoming that much more mesmerizing, huh?" Deep Child frivolously commented. Xiang Mei didn't respond. Instead, her icy cold eyes remained locked on Deep Child. "Che, too heartless," Deep Child said, a bit bored. He continued, "That ancient Ian sect's 9th elder has a bit of skill. To think that he nearly managed to obtain you. But what a pity, he has missed his chance. In the future I fear he won't have another opportunity." Xiang Mei couldn't be bothered to care about Deep Child's nonsense. She said, "I know you've been investigating the 9th elder's status for these past days. Have you found anything?" "I haven't." Deep Child shook his head, a suspicious color in his eyes. "His talent is at a higher level than yours, and that itself is inconceivable. But there will always be surprises in this world, just like how he managed to somehow find the Book of Ian that had been missing for so long. It should be when he found the Book of Ian that he stumbled onto his fortuitous encounter." However, that doesn't matter, because no matter what he encountered, it is the same to us. Deep Child said with confidence. Xiang Mei remained silent. Not only had Deep Child not managed to find any information concerning the ancient Ian sect's ninth elder, but Xiang Mei discovered that not only was she not disappointed, but faint threads of hope and joy were inexplicably appearing in her heart instead. She was originally worried that this mysterious ninth elder might have some troubling identity. If Deep Child had really found anything, he would have already taken action ahead of time. As for that strange hope in her heart, even she couldn't explain where it came from. However, Xiang Mei felt that when the end of the world was arriving, there would always be unanticipated and extraordinary outliers that would appear. And these outliers would always make others feel as if a favorable turnaround was possible. I asked you before about the situation in the 33 heavens. Have you investigated it? The Dark Abyss was isolated from the 33 heavens. Even transmitting information just once wasn't easy at all. Xiang Mei wasn't an abyssal demon to begin with, so she could leave the Dark Abyss if she desired. However, her freedom was limited, so she hadn't left the Dark Abyss for a long time. If she wanted to find out anything concerning the 33 heavens, she would have to ask Deep Child. Deep Child also couldn't leave the Dark Abyss. But he had some unique methods with which he could obtain information about the 33 heavens. Deep Child chuckled. The 33 heavens? It's the same old story, nothing has changed. Hearing Deep Child's words, Xiang Mei fell silent for a moment. The war between the saints and humanity, is it still continuing? It is. There hasn't been some favorable turn? Just what favorable turn can there be? Humanity is still hiding away in the wild universe. If it weren't for the good fortune Saint Sovereign having gone into seclusion, then humanity would have long since perished. But their extinction is likely rapidly approaching. Deep Child's words were somewhat grating as they fell on Xiang Mei's ears. She deeply looked at Deep Child as if she wanted to find something from his eyes or expression. However, Deep Child's brown eyes only held mockery and ridicule. Xiang Mei didn't want to believe Deep Child's words, but she knew that what Deep Child said was the most reasonable and also most likely situation. If there was some reversal in the war, then that would be a miracle. Xiang Mei shook her head, no longer thinking about it. Seeing Xiang Mei's reaction, Deep Child smugly smiled. He said, "Is Junior Apprentice Sister worrying about someone in the 33 heavens, or perhaps some matter there?" Xiang Mei didn't reply. Instead, she closed her eyes and returned to her meditation. "You may leave." Xiang Mei's voice resounded in the air. But Deep Child continued to say, "Ha ha. Junior Apprentice Sister, there is no need for you to continue daydreaming. All you need to do is be obedient and complete the orders you were given. You should know that regardless of what happens in the 33 heavens, none of that matters because there is no significance to any of it at all. Everything that occurs is nothing but a farce playing out before the end of the world arrives. In the future, we will become legends, we will become eternal, and the entire 33 heavens will belong to us. The lives of some ants or even many ants are meaningless to us. When a mountain floods, the ants will all drown, and even the strongest ants are no exception." Deep Child said, his words seeming to contain other meanings. However, Xiang Mei seemed to not hear him at all as she continued to sit calmly in meditation. Deep Child sneered, a wild and greedy light in his eye as he stared at Xiang Mei. But at this time his expression froze. He could feel that the demon power in his surroundings had become chaotic. This is... Deep Child spread out his sense in all directions. Then, he was somewhat alarmed. Someone was making a breakthrough at this moment. Chapter 2132, Upper Empyrean. At this time, within Deep Child's sensory field, demon power began to wildly gather in the world, forming a massive black vortex in the skies. It seemed as if countless demons were howling from within this vortex, emitting a heart-shaking aura. More and more energy flowed towards this vortex. As the energy condensed into thick strands, they were like chains that blocked out the skies. Deep Child's complexion darkened. He knew that although this vortex was above his head, the true center was in a room not too far away, in other words, the room of the ancient Aeon Sect's ninth elder. At this time he had made a breakthrough in his boundary. This brat! Deep Child knew that the ancient Aeon Sect's ninth elder was a long distance away from the boundary of true divinity. This breakthrough was only one that was within the Empyrean realm. But, for a breakthrough of a small boundary to galvanize such a tremendous phenomenon, this left Deep Child feeling uneasy in his heart. At this time, in the surrounding residences, the abyssals of other small influences also noticed the changes occurring in the skies. Upper Empyrean level abyssals were in a much more fortunate situation. As for lower Empyreans and World King level abyssals, they felt an enormous pressure as they faced the demonic clouds in the skies, a horrifying feeling that left them frozen in place. As for Holy Lord level abyssals, it was already difficult for them to stay close. They couldn't help but draw back again and again, otherwise this massive pressure would have crushed them to the ground and forced them to crawl. "What is going on?" an abyssal disciple asked. Some young disciples couldn't figure out where this pressure came from or what it meant. "A higher abyssal is making a breakthrough," an elder from a small influence replied. "A higher abyssal? Is it one of the true divinity level elders from the three great influences?" In the eyes of the low-level abyssals, if there was such pressure from a breakthrough phenomenon, then it was likely that a lower true divinity elder was rising to a middle true divinity elder. If one of the younger true divinity elders of the three large influences was able to break into the middle true divinity realm before entering the demon god's tomb, then they had really hit the jackpot. This meant they would have a higher chance of surviving in the demon god's tomb, and it also meant that they would be able to struggle for more advantages. "It isn't. It is the ancient Aeon Sect's ninth elder," an elder of a small influence said, his face thick with envy. He had determined the epicenter of this vortex and knew that the location of the breakthrough was where Lin Ming was. This Lin Ming was incredibly strong to begin with, and if he were to make another breakthrough, then it was unknown what heights he would reach. The ancient Aeon Sect's ninth elder, so it was him. Many low-level abyssals had an extremely deep impression of Lin Ming. To them, not only was he the number one proud son of heaven, but he even married Shang Mei, the most perfect goddess to exist in the dark abyss. Thinking of this, many abyssals looked at the giant demonic vortex in the skies and their faces turned sour. This ninth elder, at the Empyrean boundary, was able to stand on par with a true divinity, whether it was strength, comprehension of laws, or phenomena that would appear during a breakthrough. In fact, he even surpassed a number of true divinities. With such an existence amongst them, how could other true divinity abyssals compare? If an Empyrean could match up to the standards of a true divinity, then their greatest advantage would be in their potential. For other true divinities, reaching the upper true divinity boundary was the end of their road. But once Lin Ming broke into the true divinity realm, he would reach the top standards of the true divinity realm. In the future, he could even cultivate and step beyond divinity. This was a boundary that countless abyssals couldn't hope to compete with. The demonic vortex in the skies didn't last for long. From the vortex, a giant funnel began to form and extend downwards. Billowing waves of demon energy flowed down from this funnel in surging waves, as if there was a waterspout appearing in Lin Ming's courtyard. This small courtyard was extremely tranquil and Lin Ming didn't show up either. This formed a sharp contrast to the grand scene occurring all over the surroundings. The scene of this energy reversing downwards continued onwards and became increasingly wild with time. From afar, it was like a massive tornado was dangling down from the clouds above. As the energy flowed downwards, that overwhelming pressure also began to weaken. Like a water basin with all the water drawn out, all of that demon power was sucked dry by the courtyard Lin Ming was in. The moment all the demon power was absorbed, a black light burst out from Lin Ming's courtyard. Some abyssals with weaker cultivations started to subconsciously retreat, as if they couldn't withstand the sharpness of the black light. As this light shined onto them, it was like someone pointed towards their heads with sword fingers. Before they could steady themselves, they saw a giant Azura demon phantom within this black light rush out towards the clouds. It stood 10,000 feet high, towering above Lin Ming's residence like a mountain. This Azura demon phantom had curved horns jutting out from its head, and its entire body was covered in ferocious plates of bone armor and thick chains, its muscles bulging outwards like dragons. It had 6 arms, and each of its 6 elbows had long and vicious bone spikes that extended for 2,000 to 3,000 feet. Behind it, a giant pair of demon wings unfolded, blocking out the heavens. This was the supreme phantom within Lin Ming's inner world. However, with him using his demon avatar to make an avatar, this supreme phantom had taken on the image of a demon. As it fused with a wisp of the Azura war god's aura, it caused an astonishing aura to develop, as if a demon god were being born. This grand and immense pressure was nearly unbearable for the surrounding abyssals. Even great World King level abyssals felt their blood freeze in their veins and their hearts nearly stop beating. This was a horrifying feeling, as if that giant demon phantom only needed to glance at them to cause them to disintegrate into ashes. No one liked this feeling where it seemed as if their destiny was no longer in their control. But fortunately, this situation didn't last much longer. After several breaths of time, that giant demon phantom rapidly shrank before it finally disappeared into Lin Ming's courtyard, vanishing from sight. Many abyssals finally let out a long breath of relief. Some of those with weaker cultivations fell to their knees as this pressure vanished and started to heave in great gulping breaths. Before this, although they knew that Lin Ming was strong, what they felt towards him had been envy. It wasn't until now that they became deeply aware just how great the disparity in strength was between them. Just the demon phantom that appeared during a breakthrough of his boundary produced enough pressure to kill them all. This giant gap made them understand how laughable their envy had been. This was the same as ants envying humanity. Although they lived in the same world, there was simply no comparison between them, thus envy was meaningless. To put it bluntly, they didn't possess the qualifications. After the giant demon phantom vanished, the skies returned to calmness. Even in the distance, there were several clouds fluttering about, as if nothing had ever occurred. He broke through. Upper Empyrean. A true divinity-level elder looked towards Lin Ming's courtyard from afar. As he felt the aura emitting from the small house Lin Ming was in, a complex light lit up his features. It seems that he wasn't an Upper Empyrean before, but only a Middle Empyrean, one that was infinitely close to becoming an Upper Empyrean. As the elder spoke, many young abyssals were left speechless. So it turned out that when he defeated Shang Mei, he had only been a Middle Empyrean. So if he were to cultivate to the limits of an Empyrean, what then? At this time, in Shang Mei's training chambers, Deep Child was looking towards the house Lin Ming was in, his gaze seeming to pierce through the layers of barriers. This fellow. His origin is too inexplicable. Deep Child's face darkened. It was impossible to tell what he was thinking. Beside him, Shang Mei remained silent. The information that Deep Child had told her about the 33 heavens left her feeling a bit disheartened. Although she didn't think it was possible, she always held on to a faint hope for all these years that the seeds of hope she had taken a risk to leave behind in the past might bring about a miracle. As for this ancient Ian sect elder that appeared out of nowhere, Shang Mei only felt some concern and regret for him because of the strange intuition that tickled at her mind. Yet, she didn't think too much of him. Although she hoped that Lin Ming would become stronger and perhaps become a destabilizing factor in the end of the world, she also understood that no matter how strong he became, it would be impossible for him to change anything. Because the true master manipulating things behind the scenes was a nearly invincible existence. Deep Child remained silent for a long time. Then, he turned and looked at Shang Mei. Junior apprentice sister, remember the orders given to you. You should know the price of disobedience. Shang Mei remained silent as before. Deep Child smiled and turned into a dim ray of light that vanished from the room. In the darkness, only the laws danced in the air, with nothing left behind. Chapter 2133, Secret of the Demon God's Tomb. After Lin Ming broke through to the upper Empyrean realm, events quieted down. He stayed in his seclusion chamber all day and focused on studying the Black Book of Death. Because he now possessed the systemic cultivation method of the Black Book of Death, all of his comprehensions of the death laws and other accumulations suddenly experienced a dramatic explosion in a short few months. Lin Ming's Holy Scripture laws progressed at an unbelievable pace, and with it, world-shaking changes occurred in his body. The inner universe of his body became increasingly perfect, and the strength of the 9 stars of the Tao Palace also became much more concise and profound. Now, because Lin Ming had experienced 7,000 years of suffering and reincarnation, in just the understandings of the Holy Scripture laws, he even surpassed Shang Mei. It was only because of cultivation time that he was far inferior to Shang Mei when it came to cultivating the Holy Scripture laws to a deeper realm and also being able to apply them in actual use with ease. Like this, the Dark Abyss finally welcomed the day upon which the Demon God's tomb opened. The Demon God's tomb was located within the 18th layer of the Dark Abyss. Although it was called a tomb, the truth was that it was an amazingly broad world with complex environments and countless dangers. Lin Ming rode Deep King Road's bone boat on the path leading to the Demon God's tomb. Along the way, Deep King Road distributed jade slips concerning the Demon God's tomb, which introduced detailed rules, approximate travel routes, and even information on the situation about the Abyssal Shrine. All of this was valuable information. Lin Ming had obtained a great deal of information about the Demon God's tomb from the memories of the Demon Association Elder and was mentally prepared for anything. But as he read through this jade slip, he was inexplicably shocked. This was because the jade slip contained information on not only the Demon God's tomb but also secrets of the Dark Abyss, including even some historical recordings of the universe that extended past 100 billion years. According to this jade slip, the Demon God's tomb was the most ancient mystic realm in existence, whether it was in the Dark Abyss or the 33 heavens. It had existed for time immemorial. For other mystic realms it was already extraordinary if they had existed 10 billion years ago. In fact, they could even be called the oldest mystic realms of the 33 heavens. But, the period of time of which the Demon God's tomb existed was actually measured in 100 billion years. There was even a possibility that it existed 150 billion years ago, or even 200 billion years ago. The Demon God's tomb was a world left behind from the previous universe. Lin Ming was aware that in the vast cosmos, everything, whether it was flowers and birds, beasts and insects, celestial bodies or even great worlds, everything had life. But even the vast universe of the 33 heavens had a lifespan, and there would come a day when it eventually collapsed and was destroyed. This was called the shattering. After the shattering occurred, the era of a new universe would arrive. Within this new universe, new things would evolve out of it, new lives, new races, a new martial arts civilization. This was the samsara of a universe. It was now believed that the current vast universe of the 33 heavens had been born 100 billion years ago. And it was only tens of billions of years ago that the ancient races were slowly born. Their martial arts civilization developed rapidly and reached a golden age of prosperity. Gradually, they spread through the entire 33 heavens, and that time was the zenith of all life in the 33 heavens. But according to this jade slip, before the universe of the 33 heavens was born, there was another vast universe, and this universe had 18 layers. The original residents of this universe called themselves the demons. And their universe was also called the Demon Universe. They were bloodthirsty and loved slaughter. They recklessly engaged in war, and they also flourished and had their own mighty martial arts civilization. But, they were also well aware that there would come a day when their universe would collapse upon itself and be destroyed. When the 18 layers of the Demon Universe were destroyed, there wouldn't be a single demon lucky enough to survive. This sense of approaching death was like a sharp sword that hung above their heads. But 150 billion years ago, or perhaps even longer ago, a peerless powerhouse was born within the demon race. This character was far too powerful. According to the records of the Jade Slip, there was no one that could compare to him in the past, and he remained unprecedented in the future. He was the most powerful existence to ever exist, and even the Azura Road Master couldn't compare with him. He was the god of the demon race. He created an independent universe that could exist side by side with the 18-layered demon universe. This independent universe contained transcendent laws and was equally as stable as the 18-layered demon universe. Not just that, but he had taken 18 lesser world seeds and used them to recklessly absorb the strength of the universe from the 18-layered demon universe. He wanted to use the demon god's tomb as the foundation to create a copy of the 18-layered demon universe. This god of the demons was called the demon god. The universe he established was called the Demon God Universe. The demon god's original intention when he formed the Demon God Universe was to create a refuge against the shattering. But even the demon god and the great world he created were unable to resist the laws of annihilation of the shattering. Thus, at the demon god's request, all the super powerhouses of the demon race would have to enter the Demon God Universe before they died and leave their bodies within, evolving into something else. After they died, the energy within their bodies would fuse into the boundaries and space of the Demon God Universe, constantly reinforcing it. The laws that dissipated from their bodies would also be incorporated into the laws of the Demon God Universe, making them constantly stronger and more perfect in order to resist the impact of laws that would arrive with the destruction of the 18-layered demon universe. Like this, through billions upon billions of years, more and more super demons died in the Demon God Universe. That was a true graveyard of countless demons. In addition to its creator being called the Demon God, the Demon God Universe was eventually called the Demon God's Tomb. The Demon God's Tomb could be called a cornerstone forged from the flesh and blood and souls of countless ancient demons. It was the foundation upon which its world stood. The Demon God's Tomb grew increasingly strong and stable. And then, the shattering descended. In the final 100 years, in order to have the Demon God's Tomb achieve the peak of strength, the demon race began to uphold a rule of sacrifice. Throughout the entire 18-layered demon universe, vast batches of low-level demons were killed and their blood was used to water the world. As for the remaining higher demons, they entered the Demon God's Tomb. And in their final moments, they used their strength and joined forces with the Demon God's Tomb to resist the shattering. They succeeded. In the final moments of the shattering, over 90% of the higher demons were unable to withstand the impact of the laws of the heavens and earth and died. The demon strength and demon laws in their bodies were also gathered into the Demon God's Tomb where they became a part of it. As for the remaining higher demons, those that were fortunate enough to survive were able to rest and restore their strength in the Demo God's Tomb. The 18 secondary world seeds were also bred by them one at a time, finally forming the 18-layered Dark Abyss. The surviving members of the demon race continued onward and became the Abyssal Demons. The demons could be called a single race, but in truth, after experiencing an incomparably long period of evolution, the countless branches that extended outwards made them hundreds and thousands of times more complicated and diverse than the ancient races. There were low-level abyssals, higher abyssals, unintelligent abyssals, wise abyssals, all these different subraces numbered in the tens of thousands. Because they came from the previous universal era, they already had the accumulations of a martial arts universe. Thus, the strength of the Dark Abyss was incomparably formidable. Due to this, they certainly weren't willing to resign themselves to being frogs that resided in the well of the Dark Abyss. The truth was that in the past, when the demon god created the Demon God's Tomb, he had already thought of this. The demon race, after passing the Great Shattering, could rule the new universe. All they had to do was exterminate the indigenous inhabitants of the new universe, thus taking control of it. However, after the Great Shattering occurred, although the Demon God's Tomb was able to maintain itself, it was still sent flying away like weeds in the wind by the raging energy. In the boundless chaos that came from the destruction of the universe, they became lost. The Dark Abyss was like a super battleship of the demon race. They struggled to push this battleship forwards, traversing through the boundless chaos until they finally found the newly born universe of the 33 heavens. They broke past the God-lamenting wall of the 33 heavens. This also set the stage for the Great War 10 billion years when the Dark Abyss fought against the ancient races of the 33 heavens. The process of this war was not recorded in the Jade Slip. However, Lin Ming could approximate that this war was likely the most brutal and frigid war that the 33 Heavens had ever experienced. It was unknown how many ancient proud elites of heaven died in battle, how many ancient god kings perished. The participants of this war included the Azura Roadmaster, Immortal Sovereign, the one that seemed like Shang Mei's previous life, and all sorts of unknown and confusing characters that Lin Ming didn't know of. They had died on the battlefield, or perhaps they had gone missing, or perhaps no one knew what happened to them. In the end, the intelligent beings of the 33 Heavens won. The price paid was the demise of the ancient races as well as the downfall of their glorious martial arts civilization. Over half of the 33 Heavens was destroyed, becoming death zones and wilderness. Chapter 2134, Great Flood Crown Prince. The giant bone boat continued to break through the void like a lightning bolt. In the 18 layers of the dark abyss, the laws, the energies, everything was flooded with the wild aura of ancient times. This was true ancient times, a time that surpassed 10 billion years and even 100 billion years. Lin Ming stood at the bow of the bone boat, looking down at the wild earth below him. Those that lived in the 33 Heavens were enemies of the abyssal demons. This was destiny. The Abyssal's ancient demon god had used a heaven-defying method to find a road for the demon race whose destiny had been exhausted, and whose fate should have been to perish in the great shattering that ended their universe. Now, after the birth of the new universe, they were doomed to fight a life and death war with each other. For the 33 Heavens, Abyssals were intruders and destroyers. But to the Abyssals, the 33 Heavens were trapped in a cage with a wild beast, and for a beast to eat the meat in front of them was perfectly natural and justified. To discuss the rights and wrongs of this war was no longer meaningful. The only meaning to this war was to completely annihilate the opponent. As the bone boat flew through the 18th layer for 10 days, he finally saw vast wild plains appear at the end of his field of vision. And on one side of the plains was a giant cliff that seemed as if it had been cut out by the great axe of a divine god. Beyond this cliff was nothing but the endless starry skies. This was the entrance to the demon god's tomb. The demon god's tomb was located in the center of the abyss 18th layer, and its entrance was this massive maw that led deeper into the world. Beneath the earth lay the starry space. And at this time, Lin Ming could see dark purple fortresses floating above the distant plains. These fortresses resembled giant jellyfish. They floated hundreds of thousands of feet above the ground, with hundreds of tentacles that fell down to the earth. Those are the flying fortresses of the Great Flood Demon Kingdom. It looks like those fellows arrived earlier than we did. The one who spoke was Deep King Rhodes' elder Deep Epic. As he gazed outwards, there was a thoughtful light in his eyes. Great Flood Demon Kingdom. Lin Ming muttered to himself. The abyss had 6 great influences, and these influences had split into 2 groups of 3 that then joined with smaller influences to form an alliance. These 2 alliances respectively took Deep King Road and the Great Flood Demon Kingdom as their heads, each was opposed to the other. If this were the Abyss 17th layer, then they could give face to each other and live peacefully alongside one another, occasionally even cooperating on the surface. But in the demon god's tomb, if these 2 hostile forces met, then there would only be a single outcome: kill. Because the demon god's tomb contained many lucky chances and advantages. One of the most desired aspects of the demon god's tomb was a type of unique energy that existed there. The essence of this energy was spread down from the previous universe, and was the purified energy of demons that had existed 100 billion years ago. This demon energy had once been in the bodies of peerless demon kings that existed 100 billion years ago. This energy had been carefully refined and purified by these demon kings, and they even fused in their own lifetime's worth of knowledge and the essence of the endless laws they understood. These energies had been accumulated over billions upon billions of years, constantly fusing and brewing in the demon god's tomb. In terms of quality, it reached inconceivable heights, and in the outside world just a single wisp would be considered a supreme treasure. The Abyssals called it the power of demon gods. When an Abyssal entered the demon god's tomb, their most important task was to refine this power of demon gods. The power of demon gods had a spiritual intelligence of its own. When enough gathered, it would temporarily manifest on the surface of an abyssal in the form of a tattoo. Every abyssal would develop different tattoos, but the images they formed were all shared a similar design, the pattern of a fierce demon. This design was called a totem by the abyssal demons. Nether, evil, deep, Aeon, flood, famine. The reason these 6 super abyssals were called totem-level abyssals was because of the totem of the power of demon gods. In the dark abyss, this sort of totem was considered the symbol of a powerhouse at the limit of true divinity, or even one that had stepped beyond divinity. When an abyssal entered the demon god's tomb, having a greater number of totems appear on their body represented that they absorbed more of the power of demon gods, and thus their cultivation had also risen higher. After this abyssal left the demon god's tomb, these totems would slowly fuse into their body and vanish from sight. The totems would subtly transform into true strength, giving them astonishing benefits. All abyssals that entered the demon god's tomb hoped to obtain more power of demon gods from within. Because there was a limit to the speed at which abyssals could absorb the power of demon gods, and because they wanted to obtain more, they chose another method, that was to kill other abyssals and steal away the power of demon gods that they had already absorbed. This was a kind of shortcut. This also meant that after entering the demon god's tomb, there was doomed to be a great slaughterfest. But besides the power of demon gods, there were also many inheritances and treasures left behind in the demon god's tomb by ancient peerless demon kings. To the abyssals, all of these things were a tremendous fortune and lucky chance. Not just that, but because the demon god's tomb was nourished by the incomparably pure power of demon gods, all kinds of miraculous medicines would be bred, as well as strange and precious beasts, heavenly materials, and all sorts of lucky chances. If one managed to somehow pick up a world-shocking treasure, it wouldn't be strange at all. Treasures, the power of demon gods, inheritances, and even the final qualifications for the test of the abyssal ritual, all of this combined together meant that there was inevitably a fight to the death. You're about to go down shortly. After entering the demon god's tomb, there is no need to show mercy to any abyssal from the Flood Alliance. That you see. Just kill them off. Elder Deep Epic coldly said. The Flood Alliance he referred to was the alliance organized by the Great Flood Demon Kingdom. As for the abyssals in our Deep Alliance, if you encounter each other, then do not kill the other party, otherwise you will have to pay a corresponding price. As Elder Deep Epic spoke these second words, warning flashed in his eyes. The Deep Alliance didn't exist in just name and word alone. When the numerous abyssals left for the demon god's tomb, they had already formed a vow through a Deep King contract. If those in the same alliance slaughtered each other, then they would be punished by the Deep King contract. However, this so-called Deep King contract in truth couldn't be considered too well devised, and the punishments were also bearable to an extent. Thus, if one truly came across world-shocking lucky chances, then even abyssals in the same alliance could rely on each other. One had to consider whether or not those lucky chances were worth paying the cost of the penalty. Thus, all members of the Deep Alliance that entered the demon god's tomb this time had varying thoughts in mind. All of them knew the unspoken rules of the alliance. If they encountered the hostile alliance, then they would first work together to eliminate the forces of this hostile alliance. Then, they would consider how the benefits would be distributed internally. If they could come to a peaceful resolution, then that would be for the best. Otherwise, everything would be decided by force. At this time, the giant bone boat slowly descended. The Deep Alliance's station was separated from the Flood Alliance's station by 100 miles. Each side looked at the other as they swung about in the air. Several hours later, both sides sent out their leading elders as well as the numerous higher abyssals that would enter the demon god's tomb. They arrived at the cliff in the wilderness and the endless starry skies located deep underground. Within the crowd of people, Lin Ming silently judged the abyssals from the Flood Alliance. If Lin Ming didn't consider himself, then the Flood Alliance had brought 12 true divinity abyssals here, the same number that the Deep Alliance had brought. These 12 abyssals were clearly the elite forces of the Flood Alliance. At the front of these 12 abyssals stood a towering abyssal in purple armor. He had a human face and could even be considered extremely handsome. However, his entire body was covered in lizard scales and he had a thick tail extending from behind. This human-faced abyssal was the current crown prince of the Great Flood Demon Kingdom. Middle true divinity level. Lin Ming instantly thought as he looked at this Great Flood crown prince. However, he felt that there actually wasn't any good reference value for knowing this crown prince's cultivation level. He could feel a dangerous aura from this Great Flood crown prince's body. It was clear that this person's strength was far more horrifying than what he estimated. Ninth Elder is quite perceptive. A light voice suddenly sounded out near Lin Ming's ears. He turned and saw that the one speaking was Deep Child. Lin Ming felt his heart turn cold. His minor mental thoughts hadn't appeared on his face and yet had been realized by this Deep Child. Lin Ming remained quiet. He had always been wary of this Deep Child. In these past days he often saw Deep Child together with Shang Mei, and he could also feel a dangerous aura coming from Deep Child. In fact, this aura was even somewhat heavier than the Great Flood Crown Prince's. Rest easy. Deep Child chuckled. He turned his head, no longer looking at Lin Ming. If you are compared against this Great Flood Crown Prince, then I think the current you should try to avoid him as much as possible. Deep Child passed out this advice and then smiled as he walked towards the Great Flood Crown Prince. Crown Prince Flood, I haven't seen you in such a long time. Deep Child's rich and magnetic voice echoed through the air. Chapter 2135, Entering the Demon God's Tomb. Deep Child and the Great Flood Crown Prince were old acquaintances. After they met, they exchanged some polite greetings and small talk. Although everyone knew they were just spouting empty wind, whether it was Deep Child or the Great Flood Crown Prince, their performance was perfectly on point, as if they truly were good friends. At this time, more and more abyssals began to gather at the entrance of the Demon God's tomb. Besides the two great alliances, there were also many small influences trying to survive in the seams who also caught up. Deep King Road and the Great Flood Demon Kingdom had especially left behind a small portion of the spots for these influences, and didn't completely eliminate them from entering. To share some of the benefits, this was how a true ruler survived. And at this time, the Demon God's tomb finally began to open. From all around the quiet wilderness, energy began to stir, turning chaotic. Icy storms of energy emerged from the void, sweeping through the world. The groups of elders sent by the large sects stood around like towering mountain peaks, their eyes electric as they looked at the void. When the storm was at its zenith, they lifted their hands up together and summoned 6 thick totem poles. These totem poles were engraved with images of demons. The totem poles were passed down from ancient times and were the easiest and most convenient method to open the Demon God's tomb. In fact, these 6 totem poles were the keys required to open the Demon God's tomb. The 6 totem poles flew into the dark starry space, forming a hexagonal star design. With this star design, the starry space began to ripple like waves in a stormy sea, distorting. Gradually from within the swirl of stars, a tear split open and dazzling black light gushed outwards. This black light seemed like the source of all darkness. Profound and ancient, it fell down like a roiling black sea, shrouding the numerous powerhouses of the wilderness within. For a time, Lin Ming felt his spatial ring violently shake, as if something were about to howl out. He knew that this was the response of the Book of Ian. When the Demon God's tomb was about to open, the strength of the Book of Ian connected with the power of the world, nearly breaking Lin Ming's spatial ring to pieces. This was why it was impossible to hide the ceremonial rites book, and why when everyone entered the Demon God's tomb it would be perfectly clear how many books there were and whose hands they were in. In order to prevent his spatial ring exploding, Lin Ming took out the Book of Ian. Whoosh! A forlorn energy shot out from the Book of Ian, blasting towards the dark and raging skies, shooting into the vortex of energy and fusing together with it. And at this time, from not too far away from Lin Ming, 2 more divine lights shot into the skies. These 2 divine lights naturally came from 2 other ceremonial rites books. Lin Ming already knew that these two books were the Book of Nether and the Book of Evil. The Book of Evil was in Shang Mei's hands, and Evil was the ruler of the Demon Association. Lin Ming once heard some rumors that Evil was still alive somewhere in the world, but it was only afterwards that he learned that these rumors were purposefully spread out by the Demon Association. Evil had truly died, but he didn't die in the Great War 10 billion years ago when the Dark Abyss fought with the 33 heavens. However, after that, Evil had been injured and its life essence slowly faded away until it perished. The Demon Association intentionally hid this information behind a screen of rumors and fog in order to consolidate their own status. The Book of Evil was in Shang Mei's hands, but the Book of Nether was in the hands of the Great Flood Demon Kingdom. From this, one could see the feud between the 6 totem-level influences. They each took the books of other sects to enter the demon god's tomb. The 6 ceremonial rites books had a mysterious connection with the world within the demon god's tomb. Abyssals that held a book of ceremonial rites would obtain an advantage. That was that the person who held one could absorb the power of demon gods at twice the effectiveness and half the effort. This was also a reason why abyssals who held onto a book of ceremonial rites would be hated and targeted by all. Without grasping true strength, to hold a ceremonial rites book was no different from seeking death. Thus, when the Book of Ian in Lin Ming's hand began to bloom with divine light, all of the Abyssals in the Flood Alliance looked towards Lin Ming. They had long since become aware that Shang Mei had the Book of Evil, thus they didn't find it strange at all. But, Lin Ming's Book of Ian was information that had only been recently spread out. Although everyone knew that another ceremonial rites book appeared in the Deep Alliance, they thought that this newly appeared book should be in the hands of Deep Child. But, it was in Lin Ming's hands. The Great Flood Crown Prince looked at Deep Child, a smile touching on his face. "Brother Deep Child, you're more humble than you appear. You actually gave 2 ceremonial rites books to your junior apprentice brother and junior apprentice sister. What, are you lacking the courage to take a ceremonial rites book into the demon god's tomb? Or, could it be said that this is only a smokescreen that you send out, and after you enter the demon god's tomb the book of ceremonial rites will be handed to you and this fellow will only be made into your shield?" The Great Flood Crown Prince pointed at Lin Ming, a glint of ridicule in his eyes. Deep Child laughed with confidence. "Treasures are for those who are able to hold on to them. Although my cultivation is a bit higher, it is only because I have been training for longer, so my talent can only be considered decent at most. I actually cannot compare to my Deep King Rhodes Holy Demoness, nor can I compare to the Ancient Ian Sect's 9th Elder. Since my talent is inferior to others, it isn't strange if I give way to them." Deep Child's words were all naturally spoken and caused the surrounding abyssals to be bewildered. They all knew about Deep Child's talent and it was rumored that he had incredible hidden depths. His true strength was terrifying. The Holy Demoness was understandable. She had been famous for a long time, but Deep Child actually spoke honestly and said that he was inferior to this obscure 9th Elder of the Ancient Ian Sect. Thinking like this, many abyssals secretly paid attention to Lin Ming, all of them with different thoughts in mind. Some of them believed Deep Child's words and were wary of him, but some of them saw Lin Ming's upper Empyrean cultivation and killing intent started to flash in their eyes. Lin Ming openly greeted all the gazes cast towards him. Deep Child's words had pushed him directly onto the crest of the wind and waves. However, Lin Ming knew that even if he didn't say anything, he would still end up here because the Book of Ian was in his hands. Compared to Shang Mei, who had accumulated fame and renown over all these years, it was far easier for Lin Ming to become the target of others. And at this time in the endless starry skies of the wilderness, after the 6 totem poles absorbed the strength from the 3 ceremonial rites books, they began to hum and shake. This shaking became increasingly fierce, until even the wild plains that everyone stood on began to tremble. Large chunks of rock cracked open from the plains, rolling upwards as they were sucked into the endless starry skies. More and more black light rose up all around the totem poles, filled with infinite mystical meanings. Trillions of law runes floated within. With a loud cracking sound, space collapsed and a profound and infinite world slowly presented itself in the eyes of the abyssals present. This world was the mysterious and ancient demon god's tomb. In order to open the demon god's tomb, one first had to have the qualifications to enter it. In the past, when the demon race overcame the great shattering and established the dark abyss, the demon god's tomb became the smelting trial for the peerless children of heaven amongst the abyssals. This mystical land could be called the reason for which countless powerhouses were born amongst the abyssals during all these years, the reason they were able to stand above the 33 heavens in strength. For all these years, at least 90% of the true divinity-level abyssals that were born in the dark abyss had entered the demon god's tomb when they were at the Empyrean level. During a trip into the demon god's tomb, many Empyrean-level abyssals would perish. But those that survived would soar into the skies. Sometimes the demon god's tomb wouldn't open for 600 to 700 million years, and this would cause the number of true divinities in the dark abyss to rapidly drop. From this alone, one could see the heaven-defying cultivation effects of the demon god's tomb. This valuable pressure naturally couldn't be wasted on the bodies of mediocre trash. Thus, before entering the demon god's tomb, these rippling black lights were the first test that those who entered faced. The black light contained a pure demon energy. Only those with extraordinary talent, a solid foundation, and a tremendous amount of demonic energy within their bodies could cause this demon energy to resonate with them and finally enter. As for those abyssals with lower levels of talent, they would be flushed out by the impact of this demon energy. The surging demon energy was like a massive tide of the heavens and earth that swelled outwards. The wilderness shook, and for a time the entire underground starry skies were obscured. Many Empyrean-level abyssals stood in front of this tide and profoundly felt just how small they were. Compared to the countless ancient demon kings buried with the demon god's tomb, they were insignificant. "Let's enter!" Deep Child's voice spread over the Deep Alliance. Many abyssals from the Deep Alliance grit their teeth, their bodies turning into beams of light that flew towards those horrifying waves of energy. Chapter 2136, The First Kills. Wah! 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 Energy vibrated. The abyssals that flew into the tide weren't devoured or torn apart by the terrifying energy. Rather, they resonated with the demon energy. The black light flowed into their bodies and flowed back out, forming natural channels around them. The abyssals passed through these channels and into the demon god's tomb. Then, more and more abyssals flew into the energy tide. The more solid one's foundation, the more demon energy an abyssal possessed, the more the power of the demon god's tomb would resonate with them. Lin Ming also flew into the tide of energy. The appearance of his figure immediately drew the attention of many abyssals. Lin Ming wasn't particularly fast. But, when he submerged into the crazily surging demon energy, the power of demons all around him was drawn towards him as if he were a true demon king, and the power of demons all over was groveling at his feet, utterly subservient to him. Seeing this scene, many abyssals were startled. This was a natural reaction brought about by one's strength without a need to think about it. Whoosh! Lin Ming vanished into the tide of energy. He only felt an irresistible suction force released from the black light before him, pulling him forwards at an ever-accelerating pace. All sorts of chaotic and disorderly images flashed through Lin Ming's mind, as if a torrent of time was rapidly flowing all around him. It seemed as if a mere flash of time passed, and also seemed as if thousands upon thousands of years passed. Then, the chaos in Lin Ming's mind suddenly vanished and he arrived in a strange and incredibly vast space. "This is the demon god's tomb?" Lin Ming muttered as he looked at his surroundings. In his life, Lin Ming had entered far too many extraordinary mystic realms. But none of these mystic realms could compare with the demon god's tomb in terms of rank. Even the Azura Road was far worse than the demon god's tomb. After all, the Azura Road was something that was only created by the Azura Roadmaster. As for the demon god's tomb, there were countless ancient demons buried here, and with their flesh and blood they had forged this world together. The demon god's tomb space was broad and ancient. Looking up, one could still ephemeral and gorgeous stars suspended high overhead, tens of thousands of miles away. Every star emitted tremendous waves of demon power, as if true demonic gods were slumbering within. The pressure was suffocating, like being pressed down and caged to the floor, deep enough to shake the heart with fear. These stars. Lin Ming suddenly discovered something unusual about this land. In truth, when Lin Ming was in the wilderness, he found it weird that the starry space was buried beneath the ground, and this starry space also contained a massive number of stars. It seemed extremely out of place. It was only when Lin Ming entered the demon god's tomb himself that he discovered the truth. These incredibly gorgeous and multicolored stars were in truth demon relics. When peerless demon kings died, they would leave behind their own demon relics, just like the demon relic that Lin Ming had obtained in the Azura Road's final trial. The countless demon relics in the skies were left behind by the super demons of ancient times. They had existed for over 100 billion years and still sparkled brightly in the vault of the heavens. As they connected together in mysterious ways, they actually formed a terrifying array formation. This array formation wrapped around the entirety of the demon god's tomb. It was hard to imagine just what degree of formidability it had reached. By this time, it wasn't just Lin Ming, but the other abyssal who entered the demon god's tomb also discovered these demon relics that had turned into stars in the skies. Each and every demon relic contained the inexhaustible essence and strength of laws from before the death of the super demons that formed them. They were unsurpassed supreme treasures. This caused some abyssals to be unable to help flying towards these stars. Although they didn't have any hopes of obtaining these demon relics, observing them from a distance and perceiving the laws that were concentrated inside was also good. However, before they approached, a terrifying pressure fell down upon them like a torrential waterfall, causing those abyssals to crash down from the skies. These abyssals weren't injured. But, because of the sudden impact of pressure, their blood vitality tumbled in their bodies, causing their faces to whiten. How fierce! These ancient demon kings have been dead for countless years already and still have such pressure and presence. If they were alive, I simply cannot imagine what degree of strength they would reach. An abyssal sighed deeply. With those other abyssals teaching them a lesson, these abyssals didn't try probing those demon relics anymore. Hey, isn't that fellow the one from the Deep Alliance that has the Book of Ian? Some abyssals saw Lin Ming and their eyes lit up. It's him. Those that spoke all had Empyrean-level cultivations. They looked at Lin Ming with some dread but couldn't hide the avarice in their eyes. They weren't part of the Deep Alliance but were from the Flood Alliance. They were Empyreans from small influences. Lin Ming's strength was a secret that only the abyssals of the Deep Alliance knew of. The flow of information had been blocked by Deep King Road, and as for the small number of rumors that spread out, it was impossible for others to tell if they were true or fake. After all, seeing with one's own eyes was always better than believing random hearsay. These small influence Empyreans simply didn't know what boundaries Lin Ming had reached. However, Deep Child had said that Lin Ming's talent surpassed his own. Even if Deep Child was lying, at the very least Lin Ming wouldn't be weaker than they were. We shouldn't be able to deal with him. Should we contact Elder's senior apprentice brother and have him join forces with us to kill him? An Empyrean abyssal said in a hushed voice. The Elder's senior apprentice brother they spoke of was a true divinity-level abyssal. It's too early. Everyone has just arrived at the demon god's tomb and no one has had time to gather the power of demon gods, nor have they been able to pick up any lucky chances. As for the Book of Ian, I don't dare to take it, otherwise we will just draw a fatal disaster upon our own heads. Let us wait for now and fatten up this fellow. When the timing is right, we will contact Elder's senior apprentice brother and attack him. There should be many good things on this fellow. Several Empyreans discussed with sound transmissions. But at this time, their eyes widened and all their hairs stood up. A towering black abyssal had appeared in the middle of them like gods and ghosts. This abyssal was Lin Ming, and as he looked at the three surrounding Empyrean-level abyssals, a fierce smile lit up his face. He hadn't heard the sound transmissions of these three abyssals, but with his keen sense, how could he not sense their hostility and killing intent? Even if they were weaklings, as long as they were hostile to him, Lin Ming didn't plan to let them off, regardless of whether the demon god's tomb had just opened and regardless of whether there were any advantages to doing so. He would strangle all dangers while they were in the crib. In the 7 profound valleys, this was the most important lesson that Ouyang Boyan had taught him. The abyssal that just started speaking felt his heart skip a beat. He could feel that as Lin Ming appeared, an invisible force field had locked down the area around them so that they couldn't even move. Even his thoughts had slowed down to a standstill. Before he could distinguish what had occurred, he saw a black light flash towards them and his protective demon energy tear apart like paper. Like this, 3 heads flew into the skies. Blood spray upwards like a fountain. Lin Ming grasped the black dragon spear and drew a killing circle, instantly cutting down the 3 Empyrean-level abyssals. The cold spear point wasn't even tainted with a drop of blood. Lin Ming put away the black dragon spear. These 3 dead Empyrean abyssals all had a cultivation that wasn't even as high as Lin Ming's, and the resulting massive difference in strength led to this overwhelming ending. The abyssal demons were natural mortal enemies of the life forms of the 33 heavens. Lin Ming had no intention of holding back or showing mercy, much less to these abyssals that had revealed killing intent towards him. This venture into the demon god's tomb would inevitably become a grand feast of slaughter. Pang! 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 3 headless corpses plopped to the ground and their blood splashed onto the ancient wild earth. Then, a startling scene occurred. This fresh blood was like water falling into a sea, quickly absorbed by the wildland. Even the energies within the bodies of these 3 Empyreans was slowly being drawn out and submerged into the void, fusing together with the surrounding world. Lin Ming even felt that these 3 corpses were slowly decaying. Originally, the corpses of Empyrean-level abyssals shouldn't decay even after several 100,000 years. But now they were rotting away at a speed faster than a mortal's corpse would. For this sort of situation to occur, it could only be because their powerful blood vitality was being continuously sucked out. After losing the power of one's blood vitality, the mortal body became nothing more than a rotten bag of skin. So things actually happen like this. Lin Ming faintly frowned. The abyssals that died in the demon god's tomb would have their strength rapidly sucked out. This caused Lin Ming to feel that there was an evil nature to the surrounding space. The demon god's tomb was like the maw of a giant wild beast. Out of all the abyssals that came here, over half would die. And the fates of those that died would be to have their bodies slowly absorbed by the world itself. Such an ending left one's back shivering with cold. Chapter 2137, Tracked. The terrain within the demon god's tomb was extremely dangerous and cruel. Some mountain peaks pierced into the skies, like great swords thrusting into the heavens. Some places had cracked land, revealing fathomless black abysses. In some other places one could see bones scattered all over the ground. These shattered bones were small and large and glittered like cracked black crystals. Upon approaching these bones, one could feel a faint force field. In truth, these bones had already been exhausted of their energies, and yet they still maintained a light force field that continued onwards, leaving one sighing with emotion. Without a doubt, after the owners of these skeletons died, the energies in their bodies were similar to those Empyrean abyssals that had died and had been absorbed by this world. All that was left over were their broken bones and a light force field that lingered upon them. They would forever be buried here. Thinking of this, Lin Ming felt something unusual. Every time the demon god's tomb opened, countless proud abyssal elites would converge towards this land. These abyssal elites could absorb the unimaginably pure energy that had been refined over 100 billion years in the demon god's tomb. But at the same time, over 80% of the abyssal elites would perish here. The demon energy in their bodies and the strength of their blood vitality would be cleanly absorbed by this world. Like this, energy went in and out, forming a particular balance that sent a chill down one's spine. This meant that the abyssals took the eliminated dead as fertilizer so that powerhouses could soar to even greater heights. Thinking of this, Lin Ming sighed. The brutality and laws of the jungle that existed in the dark abyss weren't as simple as that. Rather, they were the true laws of the jungle, laws where the strong ate the weak. At this time, an amazing demon aura swiftly passed in front of him. A black ray of light flashed through the world, the intensity of the impact causing the earth to shake in waves. From where the vibrations appeared in the void, the vague phantom of a fierce demon appeared in the black light. It slowly condensed, its demon energy gushing out into the world. The demon roared, its voice echoing through the heavens and earth. The power of demon gods. Lin Ming narrowed his eyes. According to the Jade Slip, the power of demon gods had wandered about the demon god's tomb for over 100 billion years, slowly forming a spiritual wisdom of its own. If one could smash these energies apart, they could obtain their essence. The power of demon gods was one of the most important lucky chances of the demon god's tomb. Many proud abyssal elites entered the demon god's tomb specifically for this reason. Lin Ming stepped forwards and his body vanished in the sky. Facing this flying demon, he punched out with his fist. Pang! With a loud shattering sound, the demon cried out in misery before disintegrating into smoke and dust. It turned into a stream of black energy that began to dissipate into the world. Lin Ming reached out a hand and slowly gathered this energy. It really is pure. Lin Ming was shocked. In fact, describing this power of demon gods with the word pure really wasn't enough. Lin Ming had seen all sorts of lucky chances in his life, but solely in terms of the quality of energy found in mystic realms, nothing could compare with this power of demon gods in front of him. This was because out of all the mystic realms that Lin Ming had seen in his life, even the one that existed the longest wasn't even a tenth of the age of the demon god's tomb. The energy within the demon god's tomb had been purified and refined for all this time, like wine brewed from heavenly materials. After being fermented for 100 billion years, it had become a peerless vintage. Every abyssal that entered the demon god's tomb was a lover of such a wine, and the taste of it was difficult to put into words. Lin Ming used his soul force to control the wisps of demon energy that gathered in his palm. He formed it into the phantom of a small demon, and this demon phantom seemed incredibly lifelike, as if it were alive. Lin Ming clenched his fist tightly and directly absorbed this demon phantom. In the next moment, a blurry mark appeared on his arm. This mark was a faint demon tattoo. This was the so-called totem. For every abyssal that entered the demon god's tomb, there would be a limit to the number of totems they could form from the power of demon gods. Some could form 8, some could form 10, some could form 15. But, once they surpassed their limits, this number wouldn't increase anymore. The limiting number of totem tattoos that formed would depend on an individual's own martial talent and potential. Of course, the more totem tattoos that one could form, the better it would be. However, in truth, because the demon god's tomb was a land filled with frigid slaughter, the more totems one formed, the more one became a delicious plump sheep in the eyes of others. For the weaker and smaller abyssals that entered this mystic realm, they were already thanking the heavens and earth if they could form 3 or 4 totems and survive to leave. To them, the totem limit wasn't too meaningful. By this time, Lin Ming could see that at the ends of the horizon there seemed to be abyssal demons already beginning a scrambling massacre due to the struggle for the power of demon gods. But this was only a small fight. Once more and more treasures appeared, then the slaughter would escalate until the entire demon god's tomb turned into a bloody hell. Lin Ming didn't pause here for long. According to the Jade Slip he reviewed, the number of lucky chances was much smaller on the edges of the demon god's tomb, and the quality and density of the power of demon gods was also lower. The truly precious treasures were located deep in the demon god's tomb. Of course, there were more dangers there too. Lin Ming flew towards the depths of the demon god's tomb. Its space had an extremely great difference from that of the outside. The demon god's tomb was a mysterious great world built to resist the great shattering of the past universe. Here, the intensity of space had been tempered for 100 billion years and flooded with the flesh and blood of countless demon kings, and had now reached a nearly indestructible state. Even with Lin Ming's absolute strength and his comprehension of the space laws, he still couldn't freely utilize the power of space, nor could he distort space. And he definitely couldn't break through space and hasten his pace with great void shifts. Thus, whether one was a true divinity or Empyrean, they would have to honestly and simply fly. And because of the omnipresent force field, the speed of all abyssals was suppressed. But although Lin Ming was only flying along and didn't pause much, the power of demon gods that he condensed was actually no less than that of other abyssals. Lin Ming seemed to possess appeal to these demonic things. Many abyssals would search in all directions for the power of demon gods, spending several hours before finding a little. As for absorbing it, there might even be conflict in doing that, because if other abyssals were there, then there would be a battle to decide ownership of the power of demon gods. However, Lin Ming only flew forwards, and yet demonic spirits formed the power of demon gods and approached him on their own initiative. In fact, they were not actually looking for Lin Ming, but for the Book of Ian that he carried with him. This mysterious and ancient demon book possessed a strange aura and special energy fluctuations. In the demon god's tomb, the Book of Ian was like a bright light that attracted moths, or a fresh dewy flower that attracted honeybees, constantly drawing in demonic spirits condensed from the power of demon gods. These demonic spirits weren't too strong. Lin Ming easily struck them down, and soon, over time, Lin Ming's first totem on his arm was already a third completed. In forming totems, the further one went, the more difficult it became. But Lin Ming wasn't in a hurry. This opening of the demon god's tomb would continue for a long period of time. At the shortest, it would be 7 or 8 years, and it might even go on for dozens or hundreds of years. In the history of the Dark Abyss, there were times when the demon god's tomb opened for 1 or 2,000 years. The longer the demon god's tomb was open, then the more time the abyssals that entered would have to seek out lucky chances and the power of demon gods. Thus, when they emerged, they could also have large benefits. But at the same time, there would be a longer period of slaughter, so fewer abyssals would be able to walk out alive. Lin Ming didn't look for trouble, but that didn't mean trouble wouldn't come knocking on his door. 2 days later, Lin Ming felt threads of light-killing intent waft over his back like a cool spring breeze. His thoughts stirred, and abyssal had targeted him. His pace didn't slow down in the least, but he did release his sense in all directions. However, what was amazing was that he didn't find who it was that was following him. This surprised him. It meant that this person who was hiding was at a level that surpassed his expectations. It shouldn't be the Great Flood Crown Prince. This thought immediately flashed through Lin Ming's mind, and he calmed his mood. He began to fuse the soul force of his true self into his sense. Lin Ming's true self contained the eternal soul, and the strength of his soul force wasn't something that common abyssals could compare with. And after investigating the situation, his thoughts stirred once more. It seemed things were different from what he had thought. He fell into thought for a moment and then slowly changed directions, flying towards a far-off direction of the demon god's tomb. Chapter 2138, The Sealed Battlefield. The ash-gray wilderness of the demon god's tomb was filled with the pressure of a ubiquitous force field. And the further in one went, the more powerful this pressure became. The ground here had reached an unimaginably hard degree. The higher the level of a plane, the more stable the structure of the world was. If the Dark Abyss were compared to the 33 heavens, the world structure was already at a step higher. But if compared to the demon god's tomb, then the demon god's tomb simply dwarfed all others. In the middle of it, every rock, every inch of land, could be compared with divine iron. Upon entering the demon god's tomb, even if a martial artist didn't encounter any lucky chances, just digging out some more would be enough to forge divine weapons. Lin Ming crossed over a mountain as sharp as a sword. Across the mountain peak was a vast and deep canyon, an untamed land that seemed to have never seen strangers. Through the passage of countless years, a considerable amount of the power of demon gods had converged in this canyon. The more power of demon gods there was, the more powerful a force field would be created. Lin Ming only needed to take a step in to feel this force field linger over his body, causing his breath to quicken and his movements to slow down a great deal. Lin Ming could see a skeleton sitting in place on the canyon floor. This skeleton still maintained its complete shape, and its empty eye sockets seemed to be staring at him. Lin Ming and this skeleton looked at each other. Then, a smile lit up Lin Ming's face. At this time, a purple-black demonic spirit suddenly flew out from the skeleton. This demonic spirit was incredibly fast and it flew straight towards Lin Ming's forehead. From its stance, it seemed as if it wanted to break into Lin Ming's spiritual sea. However, Lin Ming had already been prepared. He punched out his fist. Pang! A loud explosion filled the air. Lin Ming's fist contained the intricate principles of strength training's flow like silk, and trillions of threads of the power of demons was condensed in it. The fierce vibrations sent the dark purple demonic spirit tumbling away. The demonic spirit howled in pain. It seemed to discover that it wasn't Lin Ming's match and began to turn around to flee. It didn't die? Lin Ming was a little surprised. It seemed that this was an extremely high-quality demonic spirit, and the power of demon gods within its body was also much purer. Lin Ming took a step forwards and his speed exploded. He appeared in front of the demonic spirit as if he had teleported there and then slapped out with his palm. Pang! Energy recklessly blasted forward, shattering the demonic spirit into pieces. Lin Ming reached out a hand and grasped all of the energy that was roiling through the air. Then, he gathered it and absorbed it into his body. For a time, Lin Ming felt every pore over his body relax and open to swallow the power of the heavens and earth. This was an abnormally pleasant feeling, like a dehydrated wanderer who hadn't drunk anything for several days finally finding a clear spring and taking big mouthfuls of fresh water. This power of demon gods is truly wonderful. If I cultivate for 100 years in here, then that will be the same as cultivating for thousands of years outside. Once I accumulate enough energy, it won't be a problem for me to break into the true divinity realm. In order to break into true divinity, one first needed to accumulate enough energy and also solidify their foundation. But in the world of the demon god's tomb, the energy was simply far too pure. After absorbing this energy, it was far too easy to integrate into one's limbs and bones, acupoints and meridians. There just wasn't a need to refine it. Like this, there wouldn't be any problems with stabilizing one's foundation. If one had to find a reason, then it was because this world had already refined this energy for 100 billion years. If a martial artist could absorb the energy here, it would vastly decrease the amount of cultivation time they needed. This was a shortcut to raise one's cultivation. Of course, the premise behind such a shortcut was that one's comprehension of laws could follow correspondingly. Otherwise, if one's cultivation rose but the laws couldn't follow the pace, then there wasn't any meaning in doing so. But in terms of the comprehension of laws, Lin Ming had cultivated two of the highest laws and also cultivated essence, energy, and divine. These sort of accomplishments couldn't be simply described as just the standard of a true divinity. Lin Ming glanced at the totem on his arm. With the energy he absorbed just now, the totem on his arm went from being a third complete to half complete. From this, one could see how high quality this energy was. Then at this time, Lin Ming's voice suddenly turned icy cold. Friends that have been following me from behind. You followed me for so long, I think it's about time that you come out. As he spoke, he calmly turned around, his eyes locking onto a part of the void. In that originally empty void, an energy force field slowly revealed itself. Within this force field was a large bronze bell. Clang! Clang! The great bell thundered and grew larger. Two figures, one black and one white, flew out from it. From appearances, these two figures seemed like ghosts. You actually discovered us? The black figure said with surprise. His voice was ethereal and sharp, making one shudder. These two abyssal demons had extremely strange appearances. They were short, even shorter than the average height of a human male. Their bodies were thin and emaciated, and they were wrapped in billowing robes. One wore black robes and the other wore white robes. These two abyssals were covered in a dim mist, just like the white and black impermanence of mortal tales, deities responsible for rewarding the good and punishing the bad. You two are the Demon Association's Yin Yang twin ghosts? One of Lin Ming's eyebrows arched upwards. When he killed the Demon Association's elder and read his memories, he had familiarized himself with the high-level figures of the Demon Association. These Yin Yang twin ghosts were high-level elders of the Demon Association. They were two brothers, and their cultivations were at the lower true divinity level. If they were alone, then their strength wouldn't be considered much. But together, they could display a terrifying combat strength. You actually recognize us, hand over the Book of Ian and the power of demon gods you absorbed, and we will leave you be. The white-robed abyssal cackled. Lin Ming chuckled. Are you still spouting nonsense at a time like this? Just make your move already. Lin Ming directly drew out the black dragon spear, his eyes shimmering with a brilliant fighting spirit. With the Book of Ian in his possession, he was sure to draw the hatred of others. And these Yin Yang twin ghosts were the best indicator with which to test his current strength. He had intentionally looked for a remote area to face his opponents, all in order to test just what level his strength had reached after opening the 7th palace of the 9 stars of the Dao Palace and also breaking into the upper Empyrean realm. You are courting death. The Yin Yang twin ghosts sinisterly sneered. With a loud humming sound, the great bronze bell in front of them suddenly shivered and floated above their heads. It released a continuous force field that locked in the surrounding space. And after this, the bell came falling down. Lin Ming glanced around and shot his sense onto this bell. He hesitated for a moment, actually not trying to dodge the bell. Clang! With a loud rumble, the bell completely covered Lin Ming and the Yin Yang twin ghost within. The space inside the bell was a circle 200 feet in diameter. To a true divinity realm martial artist, 200 feet couldn't even be considered a distance at all. With Lin Ming and the Yin Yang twin ghosts in such a tightly confined space, it was no different from hand-to-hand close-body combat. Seeing Lin Ming not trying to avoid from start to finish, the Yin Yang twin ghosts were stunned. They originally believed that Lin Ming might be a true divinity-level master. Otherwise, Deep Child wouldn't have given him such exaggerated praise, and the Deep Alliance wouldn't have allowed him to take the Book of Ian into the demon god's tomb. Against a true divinity-level master, while defeating them was easy, killing them was difficult. After all, if this other party discovered their presence and exhausted their skills to escape, it would take a good period of time to overtake them, not to mention that Lin Ming also had companions with him in the demon god's tomb. If other abyssals of the Deep Alliance were drawn here, then their plans to hunt down Lin Ming would fail. Thus, they wanted to use the large bronze bell to trap Lin Ming within. If they sealed off their opponent's escape routes, then it would make it much easier to kill him. They originally thought that Lin Ming would struggle and wouldn't let them cover him in the bell so easily. But, when they easily managed to achieve their goal, they actually felt something strange in their hearts. And at this time, within the sealed space of the large bronze bell, Lin Ming was checking his surroundings, utterly composed. This bronze bell was a high-quality true divinity spirit treasure. And with the force field covering the area, wanting to break out from within wouldn't be easy at all. As for the ground beneath his feet, it was the land of the demon god's tomb, land as hard as divine iron. In other words, once the bell fell down and sealed off the surrounding space, then not only would it be difficult for those inside to leave, but it would also be difficult for those outside to enter. Moreover, it would be impossible to find out what was occurring within. This was a completely sealed-off battlefield. Thinking of this, Lin Ming smiled. For himself, this was a surpassingly good opportunity. What are you smiling about? The Yin Yang twin ghosts frowned. Lin Ming lazily shook his head. Nothing, it's just that I haven't come out for exercise for a long time, so I'm a bit out of sorts. And you too, just gave me this perfect opportunity. Lin Ming's words left the Yin Yang twin ghosts perplexed. Just what did he mean by not coming out to exercise in a long time? Just who and what was this person before them? Chapter 2139, Lin Ming's Strength. Before the Yin Yang twin ghosts could react, a heavy mist suddenly erupted from Lin Ming's body. This mist carried with it a deep and powerful strength that proliferated through the air all around. This was Lin Ming's Grand Mist space. The Grand Mist spread within the ancient bronze bell, completely sealing up the already sealed battlefield. Immediately, the Yin-Yang twin ghosts raised their guards. An upper Empyrean was surrounded by two true divinities in a sealed space, but not only did he not panic, but he even laid down a force field to block off the area. It seemed he wanted to fight some sort of final battle. If such a person wasn't an idiot or crazy, then they were someone who had more than enough confidence in their own strength. And, when recalling the fact that Deep King Road allowed Lin Ming to carry the Book of Ian into the demon god's tomb, the chances of Lin Ming being an idiot were near zero. How interesting. We are going to kill you, but it looks like you want to eat us up instead. Are you afraid that we are going to run away? A mere upper Empyrean actually wants to contend with us two brothers. The Yin-Yang twin ghosts cackled, their voices gloomy and evil. They spread out, standing on both sides of Lin Ming. And at this time Lin Ming was continuing to bolster his Grand Mist force field, blocking out this space. Lin Ming's eyes swept over the arms beneath the voluminous robes of the Yin-Yang twin ghosts. On each of their arms was a totem mark. The Yin-Yang twin ghosts' totem marks were actually not much dimmer than Lin Ming's was. Lin Ming possessed the Book of Ian, so his speed in absorbing the power of demon gods should have been amongst the fastest of all, yet he wasn't able to surpass the Yin-Yang twin ghosts. This meant that the Yin-Yang twin ghosts had killed a great number of abyssals from the Deep Alliance before this. Only by killing other abyssals and plundering their totems could one rapidly accumulate the power of demon gods. After killing them, my first totem mark should be able to reach perfection, and it might even go a little beyond that. Unfortunately, the Book of Ian draws the hate of others too easily, so now I must fight true divinities. If I were able to delay this for a few days and allow them to gather more power of demon gods before I killed them, then my harvests would have been even greater. As Lin Ming was thinking this, the Yin-Yang twin ghosts had already begun to rush towards him. They were skilled in coordinating their attacks. The moment they moved, they had already blocked out all of Lin Ming's angles of avoidance. Facing Lin Ming, neither of them held back. Lin Ming's actions of sealing away the battlefield once more had caused them to become wary of him. The black and white light of abyssals flooded the battlefield. The Yin-Yang twin ghosts struck out with an extremely cunning attack trajectory and also attacked from two sides at once. For a normal abyssal, this would have been difficult to fend off. However, facing such an attack, Lin Ming only sneered. In this instant Lin Ming's inner world opened and a raging and boundless energy wildly gushed out. This sort of energy was drastically different from the demon energies within the dark abyss. That demonic abyssal energy was fierce and cold, filled with thick killing intent. But, this sort of energy was vast and broad, yet it didn't lose its sharp edge. This was the power of divinity from the 33 heavens, and also the strength from unifying true essence, spirit essence, and astral essence. Ho! Like a dragon roaring out into the horizon, an incredible hum rang through the ancient bronze bell, wildly reverberating all around. Lin Ming's true self rushed out from his demon avatar's inner world. Like a treasure sword being unsheathed from 1,000 years of dust, divine light recklessly shot out, nearly piercing through the ancient bronze bell. What? The Yin-Yang twin ghosts were panic-stricken. In an instant, Lin Ming had become two. Moreover, what shocked them the most was that this Lin Ming no longer had the appearance of an abyssal, but rather had the appearance of someone of the ancient races, or even someone from the Dark Angel race. From looks alone it was impossible for them to determine whether Lin Ming's true self was an abyssal demon or not. But, the vast power of divinity exuding from Lin Ming's true self allowed them to instantly confirm that this person who suddenly appeared was neither an abyssal nor someone from the ancient races. Rather, he came from the 33 heavens. Thinking of this possibility, the hearts of the Yin-Yang twin ghosts quaked. Someone from the 33 heavens, how could they appear in the dark abyss? Could this be some sort of great plot? Before they could respond, Lin Ming's true self suddenly attacked. Lin Ming raised his spear and thrust outwards. Spearlight howled, seeming as if it could overturn the universe as it pierced towards the white-robed abyssal. And at the same time, Lin Ming's demon avatar also attacked. He grabbed a thick bone spear and pounded down at the black-robed abyssal. Without a need to hide his strength any longer, without a need to hide his laws, in this moment, 7 great stars from the 9 stars of the Dao Palace suddenly appeared above Lin Ming's head. Endless starlight poured into the bodies of Lin Ming's true self and his demon avatar, causing their strength to rise to a new limit. Bang! The yin-yang twin ghosts simply weren't able to resist the raging impact at all. The two of them miserably coughed as they were sent tumbling away. Bang! Bang! With 2 loud rings, the yin-yang twin ghosts smashed into the ancient bronze bell, causing it to thunder out loud. What is going on? The yin-yang twin ghosts were bewildered. From this short glance, they fatally released that this person from the 33 heavens who suddenly appeared had a cultivation inferior to that of a true divinity, but how could someone who hadn't reached true divinity possess such a freakish level of strength? One abyssal, one life form from the 33 heavens, could they have been one body to begin with? Take away the bell. The black-robed abyssal shouted out loud. The situation had undergone heaven-shaking changes. They had already lost all control of what was occurring. This life form from the 33 heavens had mixed itself into the dark abyss, and not just that, but their strength was incredible and they obviously had dark intentions. This sort of important discovery needed to be reported. You want to escape? Keep on dreaming. Lin Ming's true self sneered. At this time, the inner world of Lin Ming's true self also opened. Shwa! 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 3 more figures flew out. These were Lin Ming's avatars of essence, energy, and divine. Now that Lin Ming didn't need to hide his strength any longer, he could finally go all out. Roar! The cry of a dragon echoed from Lin Ming's inner world. The little black dragon that had been hiding in Lin Ming's inner world throughout his entire time in the dark abyss finally joined the fray. Little Black had long since reached the limits of an Empyrean. Although its strength still fell short of that of a true divinity, it could rely on its powerful vitality and potent body to act as a deterrent in battle. Within the ancient bronze bell, even though Little Black had shrunk its body to an infinitesimally small portion of its original size, it still took up nearly half of the available space. It immediately became crowded inside. Little Black was like a giant wall of meat. When combined with the grand mist space, it blocked the ancient bronze bell from opening. Thick killing intent flashed in Lin Ming's eyes. He had planned from the very start to reveal all cards in his hands, because he could not allow a single one of these abyssals to leave. He had to cut down the yin-yang twin ghosts here, otherwise the consequences would be unimaginable. When Lin Ming was at the Middle Empyrean realm and hadn't yet opened the twofold Dao Palace, he had used all means and had managed to slay a lower true divinity. Now, in this sealed space with his strength greatly enhanced, it wouldn't be difficult for him to eliminate these 2 lower true divinities. The power of yin and yang. Lin Ming's true self and his demon avatar moved together. Their 4 hands moved as one, drawing a primal chaos diagram with their hands. Endless power of divinity and demons rushed out from Lin Ming's true self and his demon avatar, fusing together to form a yin-yang wheel. This giant wheel sliced down onto the black-robed abyssal. The black-robed abyssal was panic-stricken. At the same time, the white-robed abyssal was diverted by Little Black and the 3 avatars, completely unable to help. The reason that the yin-yang twin ghosts were known to be powerful was because the 2 brothers could coordinate without the slightest gap. But once they were split apart, their combat strength would drop precipitously. When they faced Lin Ming, it had been 2 against 1, but now it had become 2 against 6. The sudden change in disparity could be imagined. The black-robed abyssal's complexion rapidly changed. He opened his lips and a small green fork came spinning out. Countless evil spirits lingered atop this small fork. They emitted pained hisses and wails, causing the small fork to seem extremely fierce. Facing this small fork, Lin Ming's true self and demon avatar simply disregarded it. They savagely pressed down the yin-yang wheel. Gotcha! With a loud explosive sound, the small green fork was sent flying away. The yin-yang wheel flew down without slowing. At the same time, the faint phantom of a black phantom appeared behind the wheel. In this crucial life or death moment, the black-robed abyssal wildly roared. He summoned all the demon power in his body and smashed out his fist onto the yin-yang wheel. In the next moment, a wild vortex of energy swirled through the entire sealed space. Beneath Lin Ming's suppression, the explosive energy didn't sweep outward so that the ancient bronze bell wouldn't break. Rather, these energies all swept towards the black-robed abyssal. The black-robed abyssal spat out a mouthful of black blood as he was sent flying away. Chapter 2140, Executing the Twin Ghosts. Pang! The black-robed abyssal smashed the walls of the ancient bronze bell. The ancient bronze bell had already started to deform and the white-robed abyssal wanted to take it back. However, because of the heavy Grand Mist force field pressing against the ancient bell and with Lin Ming's 3 avatars diverting the white-robed abyssal, the white-robed abyssal was finding this impossibly difficult to do. Seeing the black-robed abyssal about to die, the white-robed abyssal emitted a shrill, ear-piercing scream. This scream was like the cry of a demented ghost. As the white-robed abyssal cried, blood-red marks began to appear on his face. These marks burned like flames and grew like weeds, rapidly spreading all over the white-robed abyssal's body. In that moment, the white-robed abyssal had burned his blood essence. And at the same time, the black-robed abyssal was also pushed to the edge by Lin Ming. His entire body shook and blood-red marks began to spread on his face too. He was also trying to burn his blood essence. 2 true divinity-level abyssals were burning their blood essence together. When added to their joint attacks, their combat strength would rise to yet another level. Wang! The white-robed abyssal summoned forth a bone pagoda. This bone pagoda was only an inch tall, but when it appeared it began to wildly absorb the massive amount of blood vitality from the white-robed abyssal's blood marks and then recklessly grew. As for the black-robed abyssal, he brought out a ghost streamer. This ghost streamer whipped against the wind as trillions of malicious spirits rushed out from it. These spirits emitted wails that stung the ears as they sank into the bone pagoda. The bone pagoda rapidly grew. With a loud rumbling sound, it rose higher and higher until it smashed into the top of the ancient bronze bell, like a pillar that supported it from within. And even then, the bone pagoda continued to grow, as if it would lift up the bronze bell at any moment. Pang! 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 The ground beneath the bone pagoda started to crack apart. As for Lin Ming's Grand Mist force field, as it was impacted by this tremendous strength, it began to wobble. The overlapped layers of Grand Mist energy weren't stable to begin with, and now it seemed as if the entire force field would collapse. Seeing this, Lin Ming's eyes flashed with a cold light. His demon avatar rushed out and smashed a fist against the bone pagoda. Gotcha! The bone pagoda had a hole smashed in it by Lin Ming's demon avatar. The demon avatar thrust an arm into it like a viper, all the way into the bone pagoda. Laws of famine, swallowing. For a time, the arm of Lin Ming's demon avatar turned into that image of famine's blood tentacles. The power of swallowing wildly poured into the bone pagoda, and the devouring vortex that was created covered many of these malicious spirits, swallowing them up as they screamed in misery. After breaking into the twofold Dao Palace, the swallowing laws were able to harmonize with Lin Ming's demon avatar even better, and he was able to bring out more of its strength. Hum! The bone pagoda violently trembled as if it were about to disintegrate. As for the ancient bell that lifted a little, it started to fall back down. As the black-robed abyssal saw Lin Ming suck in all of the spirits he had refined with so much effort, he felt as if he would vomit blood from anger. He grasped the ghost streamer and a howling gale rose up. Layers upon layers of demon energy gathered together, forming into a giant demon claw in the air that grasped down at Lin Ming's demon avatar. The black-robed abyssal wanted to force away Lin Ming's demon avatar, but at this time a blinding spear light flashed out, smashing into the giant demon claw. Pang! With a loud explosion, the demon claw burst apart into a miasma of fog and black light. Lin Ming's true self had attacked. You? Seeing Lin Ming's true self attack, the white-robed Abyssal's eyes turned blood red. Lin Ming was simply too hard for them to deal with. Not only was he fighting 1 against 2, but he could even divert both of them at the same time. Although they stimulated their blood marks, this sort of secret technique couldn't last too long. Once the secret technique faded away, their defeat would only arrive faster. After breaking apart the demon claw, Lin Ming coldly sneered. Crackling sounds burst out from within his body and scales began to grow over his true self. At the same time, the Azura war god Phantom appeared behind Lin Ming. His true self had activated his Azura blood. Not just that, but by using the Gate of Life's ability to restore blood essence, Lin Ming even conveniently burnt some blood essence from his true self. At this time, the superiority that the Yin-Yang twin ghosts gained from burning their blood essence had disappeared. Power of the 9 stars. Lin Ming punched out a fist. 7 stars floated up behind him, the power of infinite starlight pouring into Lin Ming's body, condensing onto his fists. The white-robed Abyssal raised up a demon claw to block this fist. Support me! The white-robed Abyssal roared at the black-robed Abyssal. At this time, neither of them could bother with the bone pagoda. However, before the white-robed Abyssal's voice fell, his complexion changed. Lin Ming's fist contained an all-annihilating corrosive strength. The white-robed Abyssal's demon claw was rapidly melted away by this fist, and even his blood vitality and life force started to quickly dissipate. This was one of the moves that Lin Ming had come up with after obtaining Shang Mei's Black Book of Death and unifying it with his comprehensions of the samsara of life and death. Such an attack was already extremely close to Shang Mei's attack. In the blink of an eye, the white-robed Abyssal's arms turned deathly gray, as if they had lost all life. The black-robed Abyssal was panic-stricken. He grabbed a small green fork in his hand and hurried to help the white-robed Abyssal. But in this moment, Lin Ming's demon avatar temporarily gave up on swallowing the bone pagoda and grasped a bone spear as it smashed down at the black-robed Abyssal. Bang! The demon god's tomb's hard earth was blown apart by the spear strike of Lin Ming's demon avatar. The black-robed Abyssal was forced away. At the same time, Lin Ming's 3 avatars of essence, energy, and divine began to gather around the edges of the white-robed Abyssal. They held Azura wheels in their hands as they rushed towards the white-robed Abyssal and ruthlessly cut down. Ah! The white-robed Abyssal's face twisted as he fiercely struggled. After burning his blood essence, he was like an enraged wild beast on the verge of death. He forcefully broke apart the Azura wheels of Lin Ming's essence avatar and energy avatar, but in the end he was cut through the neck by Lin Ming's divine avatar. Puff! Blood flew out. Horror and unwillingness flashed in the eyes of the white-robed Abyssal. And at this time, Lin Ming's true self also punched out. Pang! This fist solidly smashed into the white-robed Abyssal's chest. The powerful impact force tore the white-robed Abyssal's clothes to shreds. The white-robed Abyssal spat out a mouthful of blood as the light began to fade away from his eyes. Lin Ming's fist contained the dual laws of life and death. The endlessly growing power of divinity and demons broke into the white-robed Abyssal's body, even as the laws of death rapidly wasted away his vitality. The 2 continuous attacks had caused the white-robed Abyssal to lose nearly all his combat strength. And in a battle where a great disparity existed to begin with, to lose so much combat strength meant that the end result was already decided. The white-robed Abyssal forced himself to create a demon claw, wanting to counterattack Lin Ming one final time. However, his body suddenly shook. A ferocious bone spear pierced through his back and out of his chest. Bone spikes twisted and grew and tore apart the Abyssal's body, causing his blood to rain down to the floor. The white-robed Abyssal struggled to turn his head to see Lin Ming's demon avatar standing behind him, holding a thick bone spear in his hands. The white-robed Abyssal had already lost all strength to resist. Second brother. Seeing the white-robed abyssal die, the black-robed abyssal felt his heart fade away like dying embers. He realized that with his own strength, it was impossible for him to stop this monster from hunting him down. He roared out loud and threw the small green fork in his hands at Lin Ming with all his strength. Then, the demon power in his body rose to the limit and his skinny body began to inflate. "You want to self-implode?" A cold light burst out from Lin Ming's eyes. His true self and demon avatar attacked at the same time, and his three avatars blocked out the void. Bang! The small green fork was sent flying away by a strike from the demon Lin Ming's spear. And at the same time, the fist of Lin Ming's true self crashed into the black-robed abyssal's chest. The power of life and death savagely burst into the black-robed abyssal's body. The demon power that the black-robed abyssal gathered and wanted to use to explode was suddenly neutralized by the power of death. Like cold water splashing onto heated iron, the black-robed abyssal began to rapidly lose strength. It was no longer possible for him to blow himself up. It's over. Beneath the suppression of absolute strength, the black-robed abyssal wasn't able to display his greatest heaven-destroying strength. Together with the white-robed abyssal, the two of them died with deep grievances, only able to nurse their hatred in the afterlife as Lin Ming killed them in their own ancient bronze bell. After the yin-yang twin ghosts sided, the totem marks on their arms faded away, turning into pure power of demon gods that slowly fluttered towards Lin Ming.